And he was like, listen to what this says. And they'd play it like, it was like,
listen to this Petra record backwards.
It was like, oh, 0, 0, 4. And then you go, what is that saying?
Yeah.
And the guy would tell you. He'd be like, it's saying that the devil is alive and well.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, it does say that the devil's alive and well.
Yeah, once you plant it in your head, oh, I do hear it now.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you said it, you know? It's not what it says.
Exactly. And when the day we got back, I get a call from my brother, and he goes, Todd, Brand's in the hospital. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, he was riding at his friend's ranch and crashed, and he's in the hospital. So we get home and get the call. I can't go in the hospital. My wife goes in, and she says he broke his neck, C5 vertebrae.
Oh my gosh.
And at that time, we didn't know he had a head injury at all.
Okay.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I do not believe that there is no creator. And so when you start looking at that and go, well, if there is a creator, which all this evidence points to that, for us to be here, to be so intricate, for us to be so complex, the fact that we can talk to each other and have a conversation, then what's the next logical step?
Right.
And to me, that's that there's a creator.
Yeah.
And then you start looking into that further, and you go, well, what about the Bible?
Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of the best podcast currently in existence, the Why Can't We Talk About That podcast. Lately, it seems that more and more people are coming across this show for the first time, and I can only assume it's because you have all been sharing it, so thanks. Please keep it up. If you would like to say stuff to me, please reach out by sending me an email at whycan'twetalkaboutthat@proton.me. You can tell me what you like or don't like about this podcast. You can also recommend people that you think would be a fun guest to have on the show. Thanks in the advance. My guest this week is Todd Plastino, a self-storage operator on the Central Coast. He has 4 children and loves spending time outdoors. If you have been listening to this show, you will know that I also have 4 children, but that I do not like spending time outdoors. In fact, I think I would rather watch the view than go camping. But hey, to each their own, as the kids say. Back in 2009, when Bethany and I first moved into the house we are still currently living in, Todd and his family were living in the house next door to us. Our kids quickly became friends, and we were glad to have nice neighbors. Unfortunately for us, it wasn't long before they sold their house and moved out of the neighborhood, and we lost touch for many years. It was a lot of fun to hear about the many things that have happened in Todd's life since they left our neighborhood. I hope that you'll enjoy the conversation.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Time flies, dude.
It's crazy.
It's gnarly.
I'm old. I look in the mirror and I'm like, who is that guy? I'm old.
Are all your kids still with you guys, or are they off at...
Yeah, they all live at home. Brandon just got accepted to Cal Poly in construction management. And Gianna's going to Biola.
That's where Laura went.
Okay.
Yeah. She loved it. We loved it. I wish I would have went there.
I know, me too.
I loved it there. We'd go for family days. I'd walk around going, I wish I could live here.
It's like so protected.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So nice.
And it's
I'm
just,
like, this is perfect for her.
Oh, man.
And if they have good grades, they get this great discount off the tuition.
Yeah.
Where, like, if you go
which isn't cheap.
Right. It's still not cheap. Yeah.
She's still paying that off.
Now, Brandon, he knows that he's going to Cal Poly is cheaper. Right. So he tries to, Dad. I'm not costing you as much.
Yeah. I'm much better than my sister, of course.
So he's going to be heading there. He'll just probably live at home, I think. He's engaged.
Oh, nice.
To be married. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he's trying to save up money.
Okay. That's cool. How long has he been engaged?
About 3 months.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty new then.
Yeah. But he's been dating her for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's met her. He met her on a cruise. Our family went on.
Interesting.
Yeah, and she lives in Washington. And
Washington State.
Yeah.
What part?
Yeah, a city called Yakima.
Oh, I've been to Yakima.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard some people call it Crackama.
Yeah. Yeah, Yakima, you get over there and you're like, Evergreen State.
But
what
she doesn't
in the world?
appear to be on drugs. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, our oldest, I think it was, Laura went on a mission trip to Yakima one time. Yeah. Yeah, so.
It's not bad, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. But but they drove.
A lot of people go to other countries. Yeah. My kids go to Yakima.
Yeah, we went to Eastern Washington.
Yeah.
Oh man, but I love Washington though. My cousin lives up there. He's been up there 20 plus years now. I love it. It's awesome. It's really pretty. At least where he's at. You get over on the Yakima side, it gets pretty brown and dry.
Yeah.
But where he's at is very lush and trees and green, and it's really cool. So,
cool. All right.
Of course, it's getting worse and worse as far as like the big cities are always, like we used to love walking around Portland, but Portland's becoming kind of a hole.
We're doing we have a travel trailer, and we've been across the western United States.
Okay.
Pretty much every state. But we haven't really gone up into Oregon and Washington. We've always gone east.
Okay.
And or like skipped it, like went to Idaho or Montana or Wyoming.
Right.
So this summer we're doing my nephew's getting married in near Spokane.
Okay.
And so we thought, hey, let's hit the 2 states we haven't been in.
There you go.
So we're gonna and the 51st state.
Okay.
We're gonna go up into the 51st state
to
Canada.
Alaska. Oh, Canada. Oh, the 51st. I was like 48. Yeah, right.
We're gonna go up to Victoria, Canada.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. And check that out.
What time of year are you going?
We're going in July.
Okay, good.
So it shouldn't be too hot.
Shouldn't be the
cold,
tundra.
Or yeah.
Canada's gnarly.
Cold, huh?
Yeah, I got a buddy who lives in Canada. It's like he's always posting pictures of like, does it ever? I'm like, does it ever not snow there?
Yeah.
And he'll post pictures like, oh, it's 50 today. What a beautiful day.
Yeah.
50?
Yeah.
Where I'm at, if it's 50, we're all bundled up and we don't want to go nowhere. It's like, no, it's too cold. No, we're staying home. Too cold.
No. Yeah. Yeah. We're actually staying on the U.S. side, and then we're gonna take a ferry over to Victoria.
Oh, nice.
And just I don't know how we're gonna get around. I think there's buses and stuff.
I think they ride like polar bears up there. I think.
In Victoria?
Yeah, they just ride polar bears. They have saddles and stuff. You can just kind of cruise around.
Wow, that's nice. I'm glad to hear that. I was wondering because I was like, wow, but they run pretty fast. I heard they run up to like 30 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want one of them running at me. I'll tell you that much. I wouldn't be able to outrun it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've never been to Canada. Someday.
Yeah.
We were close. We could see Canada from where we were.
Well, it's the same thing.
It's close. Yeah, because Bethany's grandmother lived in Sequim.
Where is that?
It's northern Washington. It's way northern Washington, and we left her house and went to a Chinese food place that was like north of her house. I don't remember what town it was in, but where we were at the Chinese place, you could see Canada.
Oh, okay.
Like, and her grandma pointed out, her uncle was like, "Oh, that's Canada right there." I was like, "Okay, well, like I say, I've seen it. Yeah, I've never been over there."
It's like when you go to San Diego and they point, there's Mexico,
right? Right, or when we drove from here to Tennessee, or the times we drove to Texas, and you go through like El Paso, dude, that's like, or that kind of, is that El Paso? I forgot which part of Texas, but you drive through and you literally see like the clay houses like in the side of the mountain. And you're going, I mean, you can see the divide. Like, you can definitely tell that is another country over there. Right? That's not America. Yeah. And it's just crazy. And that's for a good 30 miles you're driving. You just see it on the right there.
Yeah.
But
I've never been there.
Okay.
Yeah. But
to Mexico or to Texas?
No, to El Paso.
Oh, to El Paso.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming it was El Paso. It must have been. We've been through that way so many times now. I forget where.
Family that lives out there or something.
We did. Bethany's parents lived in Texas, and then when her dad passed, her mom moved back to San Diego. So her mom's back in San Diego now.
Okay.
But we went to visit them a few times in Texas, and we went out to Tennessee lots of times because we were thinking of moving there.
Yeah, we will check that out too.
Yeah. What kept you here?
Well, our entire family's here.
Okay.
And then when you check it out, you're like, it's nice. And I like it, but it is so beautiful here.
Yeah.
And
can't beat the weather.
And you can't beat the weather.
Right.
And the reason why people live in 4,000 square foot houses there is because they're stuck inside.
Right.
That's why they're cheap.
Right. Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And here, you don't need a big house. We live outdoors.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So
For sure.
I think we went out there in the lakes. We checked out the lakes and thought, we could get a boat. We could, I could come back here, fly back on business and do all that. And we checked it out. We went to Franklin.
Okay.
Murfreesboro.
Nice.
And I know that isn't a whole snapshot of Tennessee.
Right.
What's the city? What's the big city right there?
Nashville?
Nashville.
Yeah.
We went to Nashville.
Okay.
And we stayed in Nashville.
Okay.
At a really neat hotel that was like a really like 100 years old.
Oh, nice.
It was really cool.
That's cool. We were mostly on the eastern side.
It was during COVID.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we were like driving around and people were like, hey, normally you'd be at 8 o'clock in the morning, you'd be in rush hour traffic. We were just like driving through. Oh, this is great.
Oh, yeah.
But after going, I remember flying back, it was, the hills were greening up. Mm-hmm. And I remember flying back and looking out of the plane and like, I just would, last resort.
Okay.
We flew back to South Carolina.
Oof.
And Charleston.
Okay.
And I love that.
Okay.
I know it was in the summer and it was hot.
Yeah.
But I don't like, and I went to the University of Arkansas, so which is in the Ozarks, which there's a ton of trees. And I didn't mind that because you could get up on a hill and look out. But I'm a Californian and I'm used to seeing long ways.
Right.
Like we are used to seeing miles and miles and miles. And when you are in those states like Tennessee, it's like you're a rat in a maze. Yeah. And the trees are just on either side of you. And you can't see anything. There could be a UFO.
Yeah.
100 yards from you. Right. In the park there. Yeah. And you would not see it. Yeah. And I don't like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But South Carolina, along the coast, you can see for miles.
Right. Right. Yeah, we never made it all the way to the Carolinas, but I have some friends that have been out there and they love it too out there. But we were mostly in eastern Tennessee. We were looking in the...
I've heard that's even better.
Oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? Not Nashville, not Memphis.
I know.
Knoxville.
In the
I Knoxville area.
Really nice.
Like Pigeon Forge and like some of those areas over there. We went to Dollywood. We did the whole deal. So, but what swung it for us, for us was we swung did it. Yes, there it is. We took a trip to Orlando in July because Bethany had a conference out there, and it was just her and I went, and that was my first taste of real like heat and humidity mixed together. And it was not a pleasant experience. So we're like, oh my gosh. So
yeah, you're soaked.
That really made us reevaluate
walk outside.
Moving to Tennessee because we're like, summers are going to be like this. This is the way.
Yeah, and it goes on for a while.
Right.
It's not
a month.
No. Yeah. So it's like, my sister lives in Texas. She comes out for a month to get out of it.
Yeah.
And her husband goes out for like 2 weeks, so they're not separated for very long.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's just, but I mean, that's kind of the curse of living on the Central Coast your whole life is like you get so used to this like 70s weather that it's like if it's below 50, you're freezing. If it's over 80, you're dying. And it's like, it's got to be somewhere between 60 and 75 for it to be perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And you go anywhere else, it's like, but the people who live over there, they're like, they're just used to it, I guess. That it's not... I knew a lady from Texas that moved here, and she was freezing to death here. She hated the weather here. She's like, I cannot get warm here. I'm always bundled up, even in the summer. I'm always like, it's just so cold here. Yeah. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
You guess you just have to get used to whatever.
But then as a kid, I lived down San Diego. Had no idea it was humid.
Okay.
When I drive down there now in the it's like September, or August.
Yeah.
It's humid. I mean, I can feel the difference.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, we lived there. I had no idea.
Right.
I was just like, it's just a normal day.
What part of San Diego were you in?
We lived in Solana Beach, which is... Okay. Do you know where Del Mar is?
Yes.
So
we used to go to the fair there all the time.
Yes. We could see the fairgrounds from our...
Oh, okay.
From our...
okay.
well, I should say we could see the fireworks that they would shoot off from the fairgrounds
Right.
from our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a cool fair. It was huge.
I think we could see the fairgrounds too.
Yeah. We lived in Ramona.
Oh,
I don't know if you're familiar
yeah, I
with-
played football.
Oh, okay.
Pop Warner football. We had a game in Ramona. It was
Oh, nice.
100 and something degrees.
Oh, yeah,
and I knew that was hot.
Yeah, it's hot in the summer. I only lived there for 8 months, but
Okay.
because Bethany lived in Napomo when I met her, and then like a month after we met, she was only 15. A month after we met, her parents moved to Ramona. All right, and then we'll get started. So this is something I just started doing. I asked just 3 specific questions that have to do with each of the 3 topics, and it's just a 1 or 2 word answer. I promise I'll let you flesh it out as we go.
Okay.
But just try to keep it brief. So the first one is, what is your favorite genre of music, if you had to pick just one?
Southern rock.
Southern rock. Okay, good stuff. And if you had to, politically, do you lean more right or left?
More right.
More right. Okay. And in 1 word, describe your spiritual beliefs.
Christianity.
Okay. All right. Wow, dude, you did better on that than anybody I've ever, like, you really stuck to the 1 or 2 words.
Well, that's what you said.
That is what I said, but that's what I always say.
I'm a rule follower.
Me
I
too.
follow rules.
Yeah, I am too.
That's why I'm right leaning.
Exactly. So, oh my gosh, man. Well, cool. Well, give me a little. We already talked a little bit about how we know each other, and even though we haven't really talked in a long time.
Yeah.
I remember. I was just telling Bethany. I said, "Do you remember when I go in the backyard by the trash cans, and Todd would be there, and only half his face was showing, and he'd go, 'Hey ho, neighbor.'"
Yeah, like Home Improvement.
Like Wilson, from Home Improvement. I said,
I remember that.
But you guys moved out pretty quickly after we moved in. I think maybe what was that?
Yeah,
I don't think
2010
it was.
is when we moved out.
Okay.
We bought a house in Orchid.
Okay.
That was at the time. I mean, all these houses were short, being short sold and or going in foreclosure.
Yeah.
And my wife had lost her mother. And she was pretty, I'm going to call it bummed out.
Okay.
And
They're pretty close.
Yeah. And I thought at the time that if I bought a bigger home, that would solve our problems. A lot of times guys, we would throw money at things
Right.
to fix it, or we give our advice to fix what we think is broken with our kids or our family or wife or whatever. And I thought, man, this'll do it. The kids won't be under us because we bought the smallest home in this neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
And the kids won't be under her feet, and it'll help. And so when we moved there, it was a bigger house and gave us a lot more room, which was really nice.
Right.
And I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
But that did not 100% solve the issue. And
Big shocker.
It took, yeah. And it took a little while, and things got better, but that was not the reason she was, feeling the way she was feeling.
It was probably because she had just lost her mom.
She lost her mom,
Right.
and and I lost my father as well.
Okay. Around the same time.
No, years before. So I know what it was.
Yeah.
What that is like,
Right.
but for some reason I thought, this will instantaneously heal all hurt and pain.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No,
Yeah.
because that healing comes from God
Right.
and from within.
Yeah.
The healing has to occur from within you.
Yeah.
And it's not something money buys.
No.
Yeah.
And just time and all that. So.
Yeah.
So were you guys still in that house?
No. So in 2020, when all the schools were shut down.
Yeah.
Well, let me go back. In 2017, my wife and I bought a 2-acre lot in the Rio Grande area.
Nice.
And it was being sold by this family that they didn't want to live there. They had looked at building, and it wasn't going to work out for them. And so I think they were, really trying to get rid of the property, and we got it for a really good price.
Dude.
And so, but we didn't have the money to build a house. We just bought.
Oh, it was just land.
Yeah. Just
no
land.
way.
Yeah. And my wife's like, "What are you doing? Like, we don't have any money."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, just go with me on this. So in 2020, we moved up to AG. We live in the village there, and
On the land, or
no, the land, the
Okay.
house hadn't been built.
so you still owned the land?
Yeah.
But were you like renting another place?
No, we bought it.
You bought
I
another
knew
house.
that I knew I felt like real estate was going to keep going up.
Okay.
and I knew if I got out of the market, we
Yeah.
would really pay for it.
Right.
And so we bought a smaller home, and it's in a tract neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so we moved there, and then we started on getting the house designed
For the land.
for the land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's where we're living right now.
Okay.
And
in the house on the land?
no, it's still not done.
You're still
yeah.
But you're getting to design the house yourself?
So yeah, the house is
Okay.
about 70% complete.
Okay.
From
They're building it.
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah,
getting there.
you're chipping away.
We're chipping away.
I've always wanted to design my own house. I would
It's-
put like secret passageways and like one of those like slides from the first to the second of the first floor.
Yeah.
Like a bookcase that spins around into like a study with a fireplace,
Totally.
Stuff like that.
I wanted it's a 2-story house, and we were
Mm-hmm.
told, look, if you ever need to sell this, a lot of people, they want an elevator in their
Yeah.
2-story homes, like older people that
Yes.
move here. And so we built an elevator shaft in
Okay.
the house, but it's not like we're not putting an elevator in because those are $30,000.
So you just have this big hole for people
we
to
turned it into a closet, but my idea was
Okay.
is that we'd have a fire pole.
Oh, nice.
Or it would be a foam pit where you jump off the second floor into the foam pit on the bottom
nice.
floor.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, dude.
Yeah, but that got shut down.
The wife
Yeah.
X'd that one, huh?
Yeah, she wants a vacuum closet.
That is not as fun.
No,
Not even close.
not at all.
Wow.
Not at all.
Well, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Glad that's finally coming. So you guys started on that in,
We started
did you say 2017?
around 2020. We sold our house in Orchid, actually. And 2021 was when we actually moved in, like February of 2021. And so at that time we started doing really doing the design, being serious about, hey, we're
Okay.
going to get this house designed. We went through a few architects, and we've had a lot of trouble
Oh,
all
really?
along the way. Yeah,
Okay.
we've had issues with some of the subcontractors, and
Meaning like they're just not doing what you want, or they're trying to gouge you, or
yeah, I mean, it's just been really trying, and behavior on the job. If you can't tell somebody something's wrong without them
yeah.
throwing a little fit,
Yeah.
and you're just like, wow, this is crazy.
They're like, I'm the architect. What do you know?
I never knew like grown men could act
Oh yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
And so it's just been an eye opener
Okay.
for us. And I think the thing is that with your house, it's really personal.
Yeah.
It's not like business, like, because I'm a commercial real estate developer.
Mm-hmm.
So like we build and own and operate like commercial properties.
Oh, wow.
Mostly like self-storage.
Okay.
But like to be doing our own home, where you're picking out handles for doors and doors themselves
Yeah.
and designs and all that stuff.
I would just leave all that to my wife
That's what
because I know I would pick. The
I do
wrong
too,
ones.
but I watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just go, hey, all I want is
Yeah.
a garage.
I would
and
pick
I'm
out. I would pick out like the R2D2 drawer handles and stuff like that.
Oh,
She'd
yeah.
be like, "What?"
Yeah.
So I'm just like, "No,
She
just
acts out.
you need to do what you want."
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I don't really care.
Yeah.
For a drawer, I want it to open, and I want to know what's inside of it.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
Yeah.
I don't care what it looks like, what color, what the knob.
You don't
looks
care
like.
if it soft closes?
No.
When you shut it, doesn't slam? See, you
See
might
that
have,
would be nice.
There we go.
That would be nice, only because I get up early in the morning and I don't want to wake people
There
up.
we
so.
go. See, you do
you know.
have some
Yeah,
ideas.
I guess I don't care what it looks like as
Yeah.
much. Yeah, but practical stuff like that, maybe that would be good. So,
Yeah.
So how long you been doing that for work? Were you doing that when I met you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happened is I when I was growing up, my bedroom was right next to my dad's office, and my dad was a commercial real estate developer. But
Which is what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So real small. He built a shopping center in Oceanside, California, and an office building in Cardiff, California.
Okay.
And so I kind of grew up. I loved airplanes, and I would build models all the time, and remote control airplanes, gliders. And I'd be in my room, and I could hear him talking on the phone, and and so from the time I was about 15 years old, I wanted to work with him.
Okay.
And so he said, "Oh, if you want to work with me, I'm going to take you to this owner builder camp where you learn how to build a house, because I want you to kind of get introduced into construction."
Right.
So we went up there, and I think it was like at least 2 weeks or more. And we had a travel trailer. We went up there and stayed in the trailer and went to this school, and they taught us how to kind of build a house from the ground up. But it was really, like, today we're doing foundation, tomorrow we're doing framing, that kind of thing. Right. I remember the guy coming over to me, the instructor coming over to me and telling me I needed to measure something that was like 8 inches and or something like that, 8 1/4 inches or something like that. And I was like, oh, well, what are the marks on the tape measure?
Yeah.
That kind of like that.
Okay.
It was funny. And so I went there, and then when I got home, we went at our church. One of the contractor came up to me and said, "Hey, I need somebody to work for me."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Sure." So
how old were you at that point?
I was probably 16 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I just got my driver's license, and I would drive to his house and jump in their truck. And
nice.
I was a grunt.
Okay.
And
so you're doing actual construction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pick, like demo and all of that, and working with him, and learned quite a bit from him. On certain level, like, because it was really kind of a summer job.
Yeah.
So you're not getting, the full deal going.
Okay. So do you own a company now with this, or do you just do your own kind of thing, or you?
Yeah. So the company my dad started. So my dad passed away in 2004.
Okay.
And so I took over that company, and then I've since developed another self-storage facility in Arroyo Grande, and purchased another self-storage facility.
Okay.
So we have 4 self-storage facilities currently. Because when I finished, I worked in construction, worked for a company called Vernon Edwards Constructors. They were here working on a lot of prevailing wage jobs for me. I was 18, 19 years old, making $25 an hour on prevailing wage.
Right.
Lived in a tent.
Nice.
in a transmission shop parking lot, because we were up in San Jose retrofitting bridges for earthquakes.
Wow.
And so I went through construction, went away to school, got a degree in business with emphasis in real estate and finance. And then my dad calls me and he goes, "Hey, I got this idea. I sent away for this how-to book on self-storage. And I think this is something I'd really be interested in doing." And I said, "Oh, that's great, And so right before I graduated, I thought I was going to get a job with like Walmart or somebody in the real estate division, because University of Arkansas is where Walmart is basically headquartered in that area. Right. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to build a storage facility. You can help me. You're going to have to put sweat equity into it, meaning you're not going to get paid."
Right.
Basically, he said, "I can give you $200 a month, and you can live at home." And just for spending money,
Right.
And because at the time, I mean, the economy wasn't doing real good, and his businesses were not doing, it was hard to lease shopping center space. The office building was, I think, doing okay.
Yeah.
And so I went to work with him and lived at home. And he said, you might get made fun of. People might say stuff to you, but he says, think of this as getting your doctorate degree.
Yeah.
And so that was 1997, January 97, I started with him.
Okay.
And he taught me a lot. And then we built the first storage facility in 1998. I managed it myself and leased it up. And then we built another one here in Santa Maria and moved in there. Heather and I got married.
Okay.
And that was our first home.
Okay.
And then he passed away in 2004.
Wow.
And
so you're pretty young when that happened.
Yeah.
What, early 20s?
Early 30s.
Early 30s.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I am 51.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that. And that, I remember when he died, I was so unsure of myself.
Yeah.
And so like lost without him.
Yeah.
Because it was always, Dad, what do you think?
Right.
Because I'm would always take his lead. And that's why we got along so well. I wasn't always arguing with him.
Right.
You know, because I figured you've been successful. Why am I arguing with you? I don't know anything.
Right.
Like when I graduated from college, I thought, man, I think there's two types of people. There's a type of person that thinks that they know everything when they graduate, and there's a type of person that thinks, oh my gosh, I know nothing.
Right.
And I was the I know nothing.
Okay, good.
You know what I mean?
That's a good place to be.
Yeah. I think for a kid it is.
Sure.
You know, I'm like, all these subjects, and you test me, and I can only answer 80% of the questions correctly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You don't know anything.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, there's 6 others in my family.
You're one of 7?
Yeah, one of
7.
seven.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I
Where
have
do you fall in?
Older brother that's just retired as chief of Santa Barbara County Sheriff's.
Oh, nice.
And now he just got hired on as the police chief of Cal Poly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I have a sister that lives about 5 doors down from me currently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have another sister that works at Dunn School.
Okay.
She used to work for me too.
Okay.
Really sweet sister. And then I have a sister in Texas, a sister in San Diego, and my brother who works for me now, but he is kind of getting into construction.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
So you're the second born then?
I am the third.
Third born. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have an older brother and an older sister.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm the third oldest and the only one that worked with my father.
Okay.
So my brother, they loved each other, but my brother wanted to go into the police force and do that, and military police force as well. And so I was the one that wanted to kind of work with my dad.
Right.
I did.
Right.
And he made me a partner with him as we went through and developed. So I earned that sweat equity.
Yeah.
And then,
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend that's a doctor, and he would tell me these people would come in and they'd be like on 10 things.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you need all this for? Mm-hmm. You need to like cut them down to 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He doesn't need to be on all those things, but the pharmaceutical company needs him to be on all those things because that's how they're lining their pockets. Mm-hmm. That's really what it comes down to. And that's why I'm glad that someone like RFK Jr. is in that position now to start kind of dismantling that whole thing and building it up from ground up.
Yeah.
You know? So, but that's political. We're going to get into music first.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later. So you're a fan of music, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So I am a fan of music, but not quite the fan that you are. Okay. I've listened to some of your shows.
I don't think anybody is.
And
really.
you're like really knowledgeable in music. So, you have to go back to when I was growing up. Yeah. Really.
That's where I like to start.
And so, so I grew up, my dad had just become a born again Christian.
Okay.
He didn't want anything to do really with the world anymore. He just wanted to follow Christ.
Yeah.
And
how old were you when
I was a child? I was a baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we kind of grew up, and it was a bit strict. And we would watch Chips.
Okay.
And he would mute the orchestra at the beginning of Chips.
Really?
Yes, because it was too wild.
And there's not even any words.
No.
Right? It wasn't like it was... Oh, my gosh.
And then when they really got the bass going or whatever it was, I think they're trumpets, actually.
Okay.
And
was he one of those people that thought certain musical instruments were of the devil?
I wouldn't... No.
Okay.
He wasn't that bad, but close.
Okay.
he was just like he just was really leery of what was behind the music industry and what they were pushing, and we really do see that today. He wasn't
for sure.
wrong. Like most of the time when we have these ideas, you know, you're like, oh well, that's extreme. Yeah, but there's some truth to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he wanted to raise us in a really good environment, and he had the right heart. And I'm okay with it. But anyway, so I grew up, you know, it was just kind of like gospel type music.
Okay.
Like the Gaithers.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's back then. That's probably what that
stuff like
was.
that. And my mom would watch, you know, like a preacher on TV, and they would be playing the little
Or like TBN or whatever.
Yeah. And so we weren't allowed to listen to even Christian rock.
Really?
Not even Christian rock.
Interesting.
When I was really young.
Which back then there wasn't a whole lot of that anyway.
Petra came out, right?
Yeah.
They finally gave in to Petra.
Okay.
Those are good words. All right, but really didn't really like it.
Okay.
Secular music was completely out.
Right.
Like you were not to listen to secular music.
Even if it was clean secular music, just because it was secular, you weren't allowed to listen to it.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty strict.
Okay.
And then I just remember so what's weird is I was allowed, like my dad liked 50s music. So he would listen to 50s music. So I grew up like listening to 50s music like you listen to, like our kids now listen to the latest pop album.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Buddy Holly?
Nice.
Wow, this is so Richie Valens?
Yeah.
Wow, this is like amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's so cool.
I'm listening to 50s music, and I would turn on the radio station on the 50s music and listen to it because I wouldn't get in trouble.
And did you have a realization that was way old music?
Yeah.
But you did,
totally
okay.
knew. Yeah, I knew it was from the 50s.
Okay.
But I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then Petra came out.
Yeah.
And we would listen to that. My brother would, he was older, and he would sneak, Oingo Boingo, and
nice.
Those different bands, those 80s bands, And then I remember convincing my parents that U2 was Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
because Bono said Jesus is his Lord and Savior.
Yeah,
so I mean,
it had to be.
That sells it right there.
So I remember they did let me get a U2.
Okay.
I think the Joshua Tree.
Yeah,
album, which
that's
is
the one.
One of the best.
That's the one that put them on the map.
Ever.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah. Streets Have No Name.
Oh, dude. Yeah, With or Without You.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So anyway, then. They were just like, at the time, do you remember backmasking? Was like they'd give talks on backmasking.
I don't know
where you play a record backwards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Beatles and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that they were saying things.
Yes. Yeah, it was all satanic, and there was like these messages.
Yes. And so that was going on in the 80s too.
Yeah.
So with in the Christian community, like our church, we went to a church, and they had this speaker come, and he was like, "Listen to what this says," and they'd play it like. It was like
this is Petra record backwards.
It was like 004, and then you go, what is that saying?
Yeah.
And the guy would tell you. He'd be like, it's saying that the devil is alive and well.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, it does say that the devil's alive and well.
Yeah, once you plant it in your head, oh, I do hear it now.
Yeah,
well, that's because you said it. You know, it's not what it says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then the realization came that it really matters more what the record's saying frontwards.
Right.
And so I remember going away to college, and my mom, we're driving to college, and my mom's like, put on a little of that Third Day. I'm like, Mom, boy, you're a bad girl. So
funny, dude.
Yeah.
There's this Christian rock band. You're looking at your mom like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Did you give up your faith? What happened?
So we were driving back. My dad was sick. At the time, and he couldn't come, and so I drove my mom back, and we would listen to Third Day, and she really liked it. She really loved the music.
Third Day's great,
and
that was one of the first bands that was on the radio when I first became a Christian.
Yeah,
so
they're probably my favorite Christian rock band.
Did you ever get to see them live?
No.
Okay,
bummer.
Yeah,
because they're not. Yeah. But I never had really gone to a concert until I was probably 40 years old.
Oh wow, dude. Dang.
Yeah. So
That's kinda
weird.
sad.
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a real concert. Like we go to Hume Lake and listen to
Right. Right.
the
Yeah.
band play.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Okay.
but yeah, so anyway, yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of my
All right.
growing up with music, and then my mom, she'd be, you listen to Michael W. Smith or
Yeah.
Amy Grant,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And
pioneers.
Then, yeah, but when I would drive the car, I would listen to secular rock as a kid, and then have to turn the radio station to like the 50s music.
So your mom would know, or what?
Yeah, just so my parents wouldn't know
Okay.
we were. Just because I didn't want to upset them.
Right,
like,
right.
oh my gosh, he's listening to,
Yeah.
something.
What kind of stuff was that? Do you remember? Like what kind of rock bands you were listening to?
Well, I guess it would have been like, man, what would they be? Like, what's that band? NSX or NSX?
Oh, In Excess.
NXS.
Yeah,
or,
Australian band.
Yeah. Or just, whatever was on the radio,
Okay.
the pop.
So this is like
popular
80s then?
80s, late 80s.
Okay, early
pop
90s
chart
maybe.
and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
And then it's funny because when I was in college, you had like Darius Rucker.
Yeah.
That was really popular. And
Hootie and the Blowfish.
Hootie
Yeah.
and the Blowfish and those bands. And then the music started to me changing in the late 90s where I was like uninterested in the latest stuff that came out.
Yeah.
And
That's because music started to suck towards the late 90s.
is that what it
That's
was?
what I think.
I mean,
I
if I
think.
listen, if there's like if you have Sirius XM and you're listening to like, 90s on 9 or whatever, channel
Yeah.
9 or whatever,
Right.
it's like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, turn that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But early to mid 90s I think is great. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
In fact, I think 91 to
Yeah.
me is the best musical year.
But
of
I'm
all
talking
time.
about like when I started working,
Yeah.
and that I started just kind of going back to the older stuff, and I think a lot of people do. A lot of older people, like Heather's aunt, you love big band music.
Really?
Yeah, because she's older. She was 9
Okay.
years old.
Yeah.
and that's kind of what they grow up
Yeah.
with. Dixieland jazz. That's what she liked. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, and that's always kind of been my theory too. Is like it seems to be like we all have this kind of prime time in life where things, for a lot of people, it's like either high school or junior high, or like you just have this time where it's like, man, that was such a great time in life, right? Things were happening, or you might have had your first girlfriend, or you might have had like these things were happening with your friends, or it was just an interesting, memorable time in your life. And it seems to be that the music that you were listening to in that time period tends to be people's favorite time of music.
It's when you are really clueless about what's going on in the world,
Yeah.
and you're just
Yeah.
like, things are good.
Yes.
The 80s to me
Yeah.
were the greatest years
Right.
ever.
Well, 80s music for you would have been like high school, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you
Yeah.
graduated what? 90,
Well, 92.
92. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was but I had older siblings, so they were listening to the 80s music all through.
Okay.
So I was like, that's what I listened to. That's what
Yeah.
I liked.
Yeah.
We'd go to the beach.
Right.
My parents would take us to the beach like in the summer, like almost every day.
Nice.
And or my brother would pick us up, or whatever, and he'd
Yeah.
have the music on.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how 80s music has become a genre? Like you can hear a song and just know. That's from the
where it's
80s, right? That's totally from
And
the
you're
80s.
like, it's so good.
Yeah, it's like the Karate Kid soundtrack. It's
Yeah.
just full of 80s music. Like it's
Yeah.
all 80s, you
Yeah.
know? And it's such a cool sound. And it's neat to see, like my younger daughter, who's now 17, she's all into 80s music. And it's in 80s movies, and like she's,
Does she buy the records, actual records?
okay,
Because
so
that's getting really popular.
it is, but she doesn't listen to them.
She just collects them.
No, she hangs them on her wall.
Okay.
She had me take her down to this Paradise trading center over there in Orchid, because they have all the records
Yeah.
for cheap. And she literally just wanted records to hang on her walls, like the record
Yeah.
itself, not the case or anything, just the record. And I just thought that was so interesting. And I'm like, have you even heard this person's music? She's like, no.
Yeah.
I just like the way the records look on the wall.
Yeah.
So I'm like, people go in a room and be like, you listen to Joan Crawford? Who's Joan Crawford? She'd be like, I don't know.
That's funny.
Some old singer lady.
Do you have limitations of what you let your kids listen to?
Oh, dude, we're so strict. We are known among the Christian community as a strict family.
Really?
Like we have been diehard, like for sure. Like I don't even let, because we do, like, when it comes to movies and stuff, we do ClearPlay and VidAngel and that
wow.
kind of stuff where it filters stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if our friends, this is going to blow your mind, and I know it is because most Christians are like, whoa, dude, you're harsh. But if, like, one of our kids wants to go to the movie theater to see a movie and with their friends, and it has one, like, what the hell in it, can't go.
Really?
Can't go. Sorry.
Wow,
Nope.
that's almost every movie.
Can't go. It pretty much, yeah, unless they're going to see a kids movie or something.
Yeah.
That's why we get so excited when a movie comes out that's not a kids movie that is totally clean. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
We can go, or whatever. But yeah, we've always kind of been that way when we watch them at home. We do, like I said, the filtering. But see, Bethany and I will do that too, even if it's just us. Because if I have the option to not hear that garbage, why would I want to hear it? But when it comes to music, we've never been like Christian music only, except maybe when we first got saved. When we first got saved,
kind of like my parents,
in a sense.
So you
right?
kind of understand that.
Yes, I had 500 plus secular CDs. When I got saved, I got rid of all of them.
Yeah,
and now
because
today,
you don't really want.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of those songs are singing about,
Yeah.
they're not things that are like uplifting.
Right.
They're not things that are like beneficial to you.
That's not why I got rid of them though.
Why?
Because I felt in my head, it was kind of a legalistic thing in a sense. I felt that I shouldn't have them because they're not Christian.
Oh.
Right? No, nothing non-Christian allowed kind of thing.
Okay.
And now that I'm 47, I've since purchased most, if not all, of those albums that I sold.
Oh, really?
Right? So you look at my music collection, and it's a vast mix
Yeah.
of Christian and secular music.
Yeah.
But what I do, and this is another thing that people think, you go through all the time to do that? If you look through my catalog or whatever, if I showed you my phone, I have 6,000 songs on there or something. And there's lots of secular stuff in there. There's stuff you would look at and go, dude, you listen to this? Because you look at it and you instantly know it's profane, right?
Uh-huh.
But I edit them.
Wow.
My copies are all edited.
Wow.
Yeah, right. And people are like, wait, what? Because for me, like 90s punk rock is my favorite genre of music of all time.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
So it's but a lot of that stuff is got some language in it because it's punk rock. It's just what they do, but the songs are great. And I'm like, dude, if I can just take out that one word, I still got the rest of it. Sounds great,
Yeah.
So,
but can anybody even understand what they're saying?
Most of the time.
Okay.
Most of the time. I mean, there's certain stuff where it's real fast singing.
So do you like 9 Inch Nails or that? Okay.
Well, I liked 9 Inch Nails. Now some of it's hard to listen to because it does get pretty demonic in some stuff. But the Pretty Hate Machine.
I heard that the lead singer
Trent Reznor
got saved or
really
something like that. You know what? My son wanted to go to a concert.
Okay.
he was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And we used to tell my dad, you two, the guy's saved.
And
He's
you
a born
fell for
again
it.
Christian.
Did he go to the show?
Yeah.
He actually saw 9 Inch Nails?
He was, I think so.
Dude,
yeah,
okay.
I think, he went to Fresno or something.
Nice, man.
Is it the same lead singer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the whole band is pretty much Trent Reznor.
They still play?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
In fact, I believe Trent Reznor, when he put out Pretty Hate Machine, which was the first 9 Inch Nails album, it was all just him. Like the whole album was just him.
Okay.
He did all the instruments, the vocals, everything, the writing. It was all him. And 9 Inch Nails was just kind of like his. And I don't know how long that went on. It might have been the whole time. I don't know. But obviously, if you play live, you can't do everything yourself. You have to have a studio band to play the songs. But I loved the Pretty Hate Machine album. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. He was getting old. He was older. And he's like, I really want to go to this band with my friend. And I was like, I guess being from a little bit more strict family, I was you always think that what your idea of raising kids is going to be better than what your parents
of course
are,
Yep.
And so we're like, well, we don't want to be too strict.
Right.
We don't want to be too overboard, because it'll could push them away or something like that,
right?
But so I don't know, he was older and we're like, all right, well, be careful.
Yeah.
Highway 46 is dangerous.
right. Yeah.
So he went, but he had which is probably more for the religious topic.
Yeah.
He had a eye-opening experience that changed his life.
See, that's awesome.
Towards God forever.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's what it takes sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with my son, it was, and I can take your son as well.
Yeah.
But we ride motorcycles, and so my son's conversion ends with or starts with a head injury. So if you want me to take your son out, go motorcycle riding, we can do that. It cracked his helmet, and
oh my gosh,
yeah.
So you guys crashed, or were you with him when it happened?
No.
Oh, okay.
So my wife and I did the just Chevy Chase vacation, except we went east and went to Yellowstone.
Okay.
And
not Wally World.
No. And we get there, 3 days of driving.
Yeah.
3 days.
Wow.
Going through Nevada, pulling a travel trailer with a half-ton Yukon,
Oof.
being blown around like crazy, like white knuckling it at times. And there's a sign, and it says Yellowstone's closed.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I'm like, this is so. My son Brandon, he stays home. He had just graduated from high school.
Yeah.
He was, partying a little bit, living, just smoking pot, and just doing the stuff that he shouldn't be doing, and big into the skate culture.
Okay.
And I really love seeing him skate, and it's a sport, and it's very physical, and it's got really neat qualities. Yeah. But it also has a side to it that is not exactly wholesome.
Right. We're talking skateboarding, right?
Skateboarding.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I know it's called skating.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify.
Skateboarding.
Okay.
And so he got really into that. And he's hanging out with these guys that some of them are much older. He starts off his life, teenager years, and by the time he's 18, he's had multiple friends die.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, this is, son.
That's not normal.
This is not normal.
Right.
Whether it was drinking and driving. Yeah. One kid was at a party, hit a power pole line, gets out of the car, and gets electrocuted.
Oh my gosh.
And I drive by that site every day on the way to work. Another kid, a fentanyl overdose down in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Just another guy, the guy that crashed his car in the turn circle in front of the Grace Bible Church or Grace Church.
He was on a motorcycle, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yep, that was his friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. CJ.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know him, but I remember seeing him.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like, dude, what are you doing? And, he was home every night, like at 10 o'clock. So we just thought, oh, he's all right. And he'd go in and play video games and all that stuff. Well, we left on the trip, and when the day we got back, I get a call from my brother, and he goes, Todd, Brandon's in the hospital. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, he was riding at his friend's ranch and crashed, and he's in the hospital. I had COVID. I drove home. I had to top the trip off with COVID on the way home. With a fever. And my wife can't drive that thing. Okay. So, it was just moving around a lot, and there's no way she's going to drive that. So I have to drive home.
Yeah.
So we get home and get the call. I can't go in the hospital. My wife goes in, and she says he broke his neck, C5 vertebrae.
Oh my gosh.
And at that time, we didn't know he had a head injury at all.
Okay.
We had no idea.
Yeah.
And I was just, I Googled that. I was sitting in the car, Googled it, and I literally passed out.
Really?
Yes. And my brother was sitting next to me, and he goes in, I think, and gets medical personnel.
Yeah.
They come out, and they're like, I wake up with the medical, like the nurses next to the car, like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm sorry. I was reading about my son. He broke his neck. I don't want to go in there. I'm not going to be that dad.
Right.
That's like being admitted next to my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had COVID, and so I knew I didn't want to go to the, in there.
Yeah.
And because I didn't know, I mean, do you remember during COVID, they were like...
In the beginning of it, yeah.
Yeah, they were
man.
you can't leave the hospital and you can't have visitors. And
You'll kill everybody if you do.
Yeah, you'll kill everybody will be dead.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
But if you take the vaccine, you're going to be 100% cured.
Yep, and never get it again.
And you can go places without a mask on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as you have a card.
That's right. As long as
you have that card, you're going to be okay.
Yes, those heavy-duty, highly reliable masks.
So anyway, we end up finding out that he broke his vertebrae on the front side of it because he scorpioned his head, broke his helmet in two in the front.
Gosh, dude!
And it fell off. When he hit it, because he didn't buckle it, it rolled off. Well, actually, that might have been in this rare instance might have been a good thing because the energy was dissipated probably when that helmet kind of hit and kind of spun on him. Yeah. And so he was completely out of it. I mean, he mentally was not there. Like I'm driving him home. Let me go back. It was a good break. Yeah. He's fine. Okay. It healed, but he had a head injury now.
Oh, okay.
And so we're trying to get, we took him up to Stanford and everything, but on the way home, I'm like driving him home and he's like, do you have any Nick? I'm like, what? What?
You're like, yeah, son, right here.
He goes, never mind. He goes, where's my dad? And I'm like, I'm your dad. And he looks at me, he goes, oh yeah, okay. So we went through a couple weeks of him not realizing why he had a neck brace on and why he shouldn't take it off. Wow, and I thought, dude. I went from going, my son broke his neck and is going to be paralyzed to my son is going to be
brain damage
for the rest of his life. Wow. And my wife is a prayer. Yeah. And I pray too, but I'm like, unfortunately, like most people, you start praying when things are like going
in a crisis. Right.
And we pray every night together.
Sure.
And everything, but my wife is like, she's a
warrior.
Yeah, you don't screw around with her. Okay. So she's praying and just for complete healing for him and everything. Mm-hmm. And
what year is this, by the way?
2022. Okay. It was 2022.
So not so long.
But yeah, so I was mentioning COVID, but like the severe stuff was gone, you know. Right. But those memories of being locked in a hospital and all that. Yeah. So it was 2022. Okay. And wait a minute. I think so. Anyway, I'm Joe Biden right now. Sorry. He ends up recovering. We took him to Stanford. They gave him exercises to do. Okay. Locally we were told, put him in a dark room and don't, and he can't have light and all this stuff. And we get to Stanford and they're like, no. They go, if he was having headaches, yes. Right. But because he's not, he needs to be exercising, getting his heart rate up, getting blood to his brain. Okay. And all of that.
So this was physical therapy for his head injury.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So he went through that, and I had a friend who's a doctor, and we go out to lunch, and he's basically telling me that, Brandon may never get married, never have a good relationship, may have trouble with, getting a job, all this stuff, just totally negative stuff. Mm-hmm. Just, it was pretty crazy, in my opinion. And so one day my wife and I come home, and my son's a C student, like B C student, just in high school he was. Mm-hmm. And we come home and there's math. My wife has a chalkboard that she writes scripture verses on, or words of encouragement for our kids, you know, and or just fun things, And we come home and there's math all over it, and we're just like, what in the world is this?
Some Goodwill Hunting kind of stuff going on.
Totally. Yeah, I thought. And I asked him, I said, have you seen Goodwill Hunting? Yeah. because I thought, this is a joke. This is so dumb.
Yeah.
Who do you think I am, an idiot?
Yeah.
I ask my kids that. A lot of times they say yes.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, So, anyway, so I'm not that great at math. And so I'm looking at it going, I can do basic algebra,
right.
Stuff like that. Like real world stuff. And
I can do like basic addition, subtraction myself.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this going, this is so weird. So anyway, he is a little different in that he's very focused, very opposite of what I was told would likely happen.
Right.
He's getting married. He is a construction management major and he just got accepted to Cal Poly. Mm-hmm. He took Calc 1 to Calc 2, got A's in it.
Wow.
I mean, you're talking about a kid that, maybe got a C in math.
So do you think the brain injury helped that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But the biggest thing is that it changed his life spiritually.
Okay.
He realized that the friends that he was hanging out with, they really didn't care about him. I mean, they were skate buddies and we all have buddies like that you don't really hang out with them unless you're doing something with them.
Right.
But he really turned his life over to God at that moment. It freaks him out to be unconscious now. And so like he had his wisdom teeth pulled out and with awake.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did mine awake too.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier that way.
Is it? Yeah.
I thought so.
He did that awake.
Okay.
It's very odd for him to, because he crashed, doesn't remember any of it and wakes up wakes up in a hospital or his home.
So it's almost like a PTSD kind of thing in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But he's doing good now, like mentally. He's good to go.
Really good. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a hard worker. Just a different, like we look at him and are like, God really did a miracle,
and then some
in his life.
Didn't just heal the head injury, but made it better.
Yeah.
That's the new and improved model.
So we were just thanking God, because
so cool,
that could have just ruined his life and really changed our lives.
Sure.
Having to take care of a vegetable for the rest of it.
Well, not to mention his younger siblings and everything else involved there. I mean, that's...
Yeah. But we still ride motorcycles together.
Okay.
We ride dirt bikes and we trail ride and we go together. And it's kind of like a bonding thing he and I do. We're going up to Hollister actually at the end of this month. And
that's fun.
And doing that together.
Yeah.
And it... it's, people say motorcycles are dangerous. I know that, but I think God used it to...
Yeah. Well, see, and that's
attention.
The thing. Like when you first started bringing up the story, you said, "Oh, I can take your son with me at the head," or whatever. But it's funny because I've always said that as harsh as it sounds, if I knew, and of course this hypothetical situation allows me having all knowledge as if I'm God. I know past, present, future. If I knew that the only way one of my kids would ever receive the Lord would be to get in a horrendous accident and lose all 4 of their limbs and be just a torso, right?
Yeah.
Like if I knew that was the only possible way, I would wish that for them. Right? Because I care more about their spiritual life. I care more about their eternity than I do. Now, if that can happen without all that, great. But like in the scenario, if God is telling me, look, Ryan, this is the only way your son will ever come to the Lord is he needs to get in this accident and lose all 4 of his limbs, then I would say, well, that sucks, but okay.
Yeah. I think that, because you're looking at eternity.
Yes.
Instead of just the here and now. I just don't like the way I believe in that is like Adam and Eve. God's given us a lot of choices, and like Adam and Eve, they sinned, and so this world has fallen. So we have these evil things that are happening. I'm not one of those as like God pushed the motorcycle over and cracked my son's cranium,
but he allowed it to happen.
Yeah, God allows everything to happen.
Yeah.
He allows us to make all kinds of choices, and we see that in life. And that's why you don't see cities burning like in the Old Testament, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Jesus came, he settled that, And everybody has in the way I believe, everybody has their own free will, and they can do whatever they want. God's not going to go, like if there's a storm, it's not because somebody was sinning, that kind of thing. You know, I think God does grab our attention on certain things, and
sometimes He'll stop us.
Sometimes, right? Yeah, I do. I think that too as well. Sometimes stop some of our stupidity. Yeah. Or kind of like, I don't know if you've ever, gone to go do something or wanted to make a choice, and you're like, I really need to check on this, or I shouldn't go in here, or something like that. Right. And then you do it anyway. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's the Lord going, hey, you need to not go in there. Right. And then of course you go and you find out why.
Well, a lot of times it's the idea of not going in that makes you want to go in there even more.
Right.
That's it's back to the Garden of Eden.
Right.
You can eat from any tree except this one. Yeah. And instantly, as soon as you hear that, you go, well, that's the one I want to eat from more than anything.
And that's that's probably why with our son and our kids, we haven't been probably as strict as what my parents were. Because I feel like when you see the sign that says wet paint, you're going to, want to touch it.
Yes.
And so we still are pretty strict. Right. We don't allow them to do, a lot of things. Sure. That are going to be bad for them. Right. Right. But at the same time, I want to make sure I'm not pushing them away from God as well. Yeah. And so, that, so we let him skate and let him do those things. If you ask me, would I let him do those things again? Probably not.
Right. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Even though you've seen the outcome,
Yeah, because I feel like, but as a kid, he was always kind of there's pictures of him and he's just kind of looking off and then nothing. And you would ask him deep questions and he never really had a deep answer. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And so I think that sometimes, like I said, God uses things like this to change you. Right. And it's not like I said, it's not, I don't think that God pushed that motorcycle over. I just think that God turned evil into good. Yeah. It could have been right. But I agree with you. Your soul is most important. Most important. And I told him, I said, I'd rather not have had you and have you not go to heaven. Right. Than, as a father. Yeah. If you really are a true believer in Christ, then, and you take the Bible at its word, then that's the outcome is there's a heaven and a hell. Right. And you're going to be making that choice. And, and to me, looking at nature and looking at a plant and a flower, right, and to think that there was not a designer in this, it's crazy, is so bizarre to me. I know, me too. I was listening to I think it was an atheist, he was an atheist talking. It could have been on your show, I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know if you recall interviewing an atheist.
Oh, I've had lots of atheists. Yeah, lots of atheists.
Yeah.
Was it a guy or a girl?
It was a guy. Okay. It could have been on Rogan or one of those, but... Okay.
I'm glad that you can't tell the difference between me and Rogan. I love that.
I know.
That makes me feel good.
I know. And the funny thing is I'm sitting here and I'm kind of nervous. Yeah. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, he sounds just like Rogan.
Except without all the F-bombs.
Oh my gosh, that guy. That guy, man, he can, and his guests can really get going. That's wild.
Yeah. But yeah.
But to see and this guy was on, I know, it was on Tucker. It was on
Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was just convinced in his beliefs, in my opinion, religious belief of no God. Okay. I mean, I think you can be a Christian. I know lots of Christians that believe in evolution. Sure. I don't really see a real true foundation for it. Right.
Not biblically anyway.
Not biblically. Right. But I mean, you see that, but it's just too complicated. Look at your eyeball. Right. Look at the trees. Look at something
Right.
made this.
Well, I like Ray Comfort's analogies he uses, where he'll stand in front of a building or something, and he'll be like, look at the Sears Tower or something, and be like, it's amazing, it's huge, and he'll tell him, what if I just told you that just appeared there one day? You know, there was no builder, nobody built that. It's just some glass and some stone and some brick and mortar. All this stuff just kind of smashed together in a big whirlwind, and it created that.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, that's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. He says, you're right.
Yeah.
But you evolutionists are saying that that's what happened with the complexities of life.
Yeah.
You're saying plants, animals, human beings, thought patterns, emotions, all this stuff just happened. Mm-hmm. How much more complex is that than this building?
Yeah.
You can't even wrap your mind around that this building created itself or was just appeared. Mm-hmm. Yet you do that with all of life.
Right.
And it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. And when have you ever seen in the natural, when have you ever seen an explosion or destruction result in
construction?
Life?
Right, exactly.
Or anything else.
Yes.
It doesn't happen.
Right.
You can't, I don't know who said it. Is somebody, they said, take a watch, smash it up, put it in a bag, shake it together, and like get a Rolex out of it. That's working and working great.
All the parts are still there.
This is not.
Yes.
It's right. It's not like
it's ludicrous, which tells you that the people that believe that it's a spiritual issue. They do not want there to be a God, because if there is, guess what? They have to be accountable to that God. They don't like that.
Right.
They want to live their own life, do their own thing, leave me alone, keep your religious crap out of my face. I'm just going to do my thing.
Yeah.
And they block it all out, right? It's like Romans 1 says everybody knows there's a God, but they suppress the truth. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. And that's why they can jump onto a theory like evolution, right? I honestly believe that if Charles Darwin was alive today, he would no longer believe in evolution. I think that as science has progressed, it has disproven evolution. Yet a lot of these people still hold on to it because they need it.
Yeah.
Right? It's become a religion. Like you said, it's this religious belief in evolution. And I've even I went back to Hancock for some classes as an adult, which was fun because I'm like the old guy in class. But I took biology, and this professor is up there just talking about the fossil record and the evolutionary model and all this kind of stuff. And we were talking about Lucy. You remember Lucy, right?
Yeah.
And I just saw a special on TV, a secular special, like the night before, which is the way God works, I guess. But I saw a secular thing on TV where secular scientists were saying, no, Lucy is not a missing link. She's just, I forgot the species of ape. She's some kind of species of ape that has long since gone extinct, and we didn't know about them before. And they had proven this scientifically, right?
Yeah.
So, but the professor up front is talking about Lucy as if she's a missing link. And I raised my hand. I said, hey, I just saw a thing last night on TV that she's actually not a missing link. And the professor didn't even answer my question. She just said, oh, there are no missing links in the fossil record.
Wow.
I said, really?
Wow.
Yeah. So I said,
we've been talking about missing links forever.
Right, exactly. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, I would love to see that. Can you show me that? She goes, oh, yeah, it's in the book. I said, what pages? She just gives me a list of pages to read in the book. I go home, I'm looking through that, nowhere in there. Doesn't talk about it at all. It doesn't show the fossil record, and because like you said, that's always been the issue. Where's the transitional forms in the fossil record? They're not there.
Yeah.
They're just taking similarities and saying, well, a chimp kind of has the same bone structure as a man, therefore the man must have evolved from the chimp.
Yeah.
Or another theory. Let's hear this one. Maybe there's a God, and he just happens to create some creatures that are similar. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, that can't be. That's there's no way that's a possibility. So it's just interesting how they'll just hold on to it because it's all they have to support this idea that there's no God,
Yeah, and I think I feel like lately there's a lot of people kind of coming around to going, okay, there is a designer. Mm-hmm. There is
bingo.
A God. There is something out there. And they don't necessarily know what it is.
Yeah.
But at least they're like starting to think.
Yeah.
Instead of just being brainwashed your entire life from the time you're in kindergarten to the time you graduate from college.
Right.
And you're being told the same thing over and over. And what do you expect? They're all gonna those kids come out of the schools
Yeah.
thinking the exact same thing.
Right. And they don't question it. That's the hardest thing for me. When I talk to 20-somethings, all of their facts, quote unquote, come from TikTok, come from Instagram, come from hearing some vlogger who's saying these things. He's not showing any evidence or any proof, but he's saying them.
Right.
And the 20-somethings hear it and they go, yeah, right on. That's what I think too. And then they go run around. They start spreading it around.
Yeah.
And no one ever stops to think, wait a minute, is there any evidence behind what he's saying?
Right.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
How do you know he's right?
Yeah.
Because I like it. And it's just sad. I wish, and that's why I've always said to my kids, you don't have to believe what I believe. But all I ask, like if you learn anything from me, it's question everything. Because there is no doubt in my mind that even if they question Christianity, if they put Christianity to the test, truly seeking, truly trying to attack it, they will come out on the other side stronger in it than they were when they started.
It's like that Lee Strobel.
Yes.
You're right. He's like a newspaper reporter or something in Chicago, I think.
Chicago, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, he's like really goes out and is trying to prove that that
it's all false.
Yeah. Well, was he trying to prove that it was all false, or that evolution was true?
Well, the first, it's kind of both. The first book, Case for Christ, was the first one. That was him because his wife got saved,
explaining his findings,
and he hated it.
Yes,
and he's like, I got to find a way to prove to my wife that this is all bogus.
Yeah,
so she will stop being one of these crazy Christian psycho lunatics. And through the process, he got saved. Yeah. Because the evidence was so compelling to him that he didn't realize. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. There's evidence behind Christianity. It's not just some whimsical fairy dust magical religion that has been passed on from everybody else.
Right.
It's like, no, there's some truth in there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but that's pretty crazy. I mean, the secular guy that is an evolutionist and doesn't believe in God at all. Yeah. And then starts doing research as a reporter. So that's pretty deep thinking. Yeah. Sure. Way deeper than I am. Yeah. I always joke my magazines are like, the things I read are like, 101 ways to rebuild a transmission. Or something like that. My wife's got all these books, theology books next to her bedstand,
Have you read that book? Because my transmission's shot. If you could fix that, that'd be great.
I can't. You know what? I read books, but I can't do them.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm like a teacher.
Okay.
That, a college professor that, knows the theory behind it, but can't actually,
has to consult the teacher's editions.
And need to consult the shop guy, the shop teacher to do the transmission.
But anyway. Yeah. So back to your question that you asked me, a while ago. We do allow our kids to listen to secular music. We don't go as far as saying only Christian, but the secular music we do allow them to listen to is screened big time. We don't just say, here's Spotify, run free. Okay. In fact, our kids don't even get to have iTunes on their phone because they can go to the store and buy stuff without us knowing. So there's another program, which I forgot what it's called now, that I have to personally load the music on it. So my daughter would be like, Dad, can you, there's the most recent one, just an example. Dad, can you look up some Harry Styles songs and some Jonas Brothers songs or whatever? I think the newest one was Harry Styles. Look up some songs I can have, right? So I'm like, okay, it's a little project for me. So I have to go through and look at lyrics and listen to songs, and then she'll get a handful of songs out of that, And I'll put them on her phone so she can listen to those certain ones. And I always have to tell her, this does not mean that this artist is totally safe. If you're at your friend's house and they're like, oh, I'm going to put on this new Harry Styles album. No. Right? Because the songs you have on your phone are specifically chosen for you, right, by your parents. And that's a totally different thing, Yeah. And the funny thing about that is, as Addie, my 17-year-old, has done that with these certain artists that I've never really listened to, a lot of times I'm pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoy it. Like Harry Styles, dude, I'm a big fan now. Oh, really? I'm a big fan. I thought it was going to be all boy band kind of stuff. Dude, it sounds like late 60s, early 70s, classic rock kind of stuff. Yeah. At least the first album does. Yeah. So I'm like, dude, this is good. Yeah. I was surprised.
You let him listen to Taylor Swift?
Same thing. So only certain
the
songs.
ones that she's not swearing in.
Yeah. Well, even some of the ones that, well, first of all, she actually releases edited versions of her songs.
Oh, does she?
Yeah. So my older daughter is a huge Taylor Swift
Swiftie.
fan. Swiftie. Yes. She's the one that turned me on to her. I am a huge Taylor Swift
I
fan.
let my daughters go to the concert.
Yeah. Well, my older daughter went with my wife and with my wife's mom.
Okay.
So it was like a third generation
down to the contact center.
It was in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was in LA.
Yeah.
But yeah, they went to the
That's
show,
where they went
and obviously she's using language and stuff on the the F the Patriarchy song. Everybody likes that one. I forgot the name of the song now. But yeah, through my older daughter, I have really come to appreciate Taylor Swift to the point that when she releases a new album, I do get excited. I do. I really do. I think
you're a Swiftie.
I am a Swiftie. Yeah,
wow.
I'll admit that. No shame.
Yeah.
But she is very talented. She writes great songs. I don't agree with everything she says. Obviously, I don't agree with a lot of her political views and that kind of thing. But she's got some phenomenal songs.
Yeah.
But with Addie, obviously my older daughter's 26. She can listen to whatever she wants. But even so, she still will purchase the edited versions over the regular ones, just because she'd rather if it's an option. But with Addie, it's like she has a pretty big collection of Taylor Swift on her phone, but it's all select.
I mean, Taylor
songs.
Swift must have she's friends with the Chiefs quarterback's wife.
Oh yeah.
So and she's real conservative, and so she must be pretty logical.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like these people that they blackball you if you believe something other than what they do. They're extremists.
Insane, dude.
Extremists.
Yeah.
And I think, you should have friends of all different political backgrounds, religious backgrounds, and be able to have conversations.
Yeah. That's what this podcast is for.
Yeah. It's amazing. What made you think of it?
Yeah. But so where did we live off in your music? We were like high school? You started getting into some of the secular rock?
Yeah, so mostly Christian stuff. But listening to just like the secular stuff too.
Okay.
And then I met Heather, and we had our first child, and it was like we were in a wasteland of not really listening to much and not watching movies, and there's a whole from 2003 to probably 2020 we didn't watch a whole lot of movies, we were busy raising kids, and we're basically falling in bed at night because Heather was I was 28, Heather was 30 when we got married, and we knew we wanted a big family, and so
you got working on it.
It was one after another. And then we were changing diapers for years and years and years. I think at one time I calculated how many diapers we changed. I mean, it was like extraordinary amount. I forget the number, but it was a lot. And I remember going to my oldest son. It's the only one it worked on. And I said, "Hey, these diapers are really expensive.
Yeah,
I need you to start going to the bathroom in the toilet." And he did it.
How old is he?
He was like 3 years old.
Okay.
He's like, all right.
Hey, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Just use the bathroom.
Would he be like, can you give me the money that you would have spent on diapers?
He's like that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's smart. That's a smart businessman right there. All right, Dad, I'll stop pooping in my pants as long as you give me the money to spend on whatever I want.
On whatever you want. So, we stopped, didn't listen to a whole lot. And then as our kids became teenagers, they wanted to listen to, Taylor Swift, or they wanted to listen to Harry Styles, or, some of these artists. And we were more okay with I got into country music really. Okay. Just because it tells a story and it's relatively clean. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I like country too. I like a lot of different types of music.
I used to say for years, I'd say I like everything but country.
Really?
That was always the one thing. And then over time, I kind of started to appreciate it more. I definitely like more of the old country, Hank Williams Sr., Johnny Cash, that kind of stuff. But I also like some of the newer stuff too.
Yeah.
Like not all of it. But yeah, I'm with you. I like songs that are kind of like storyteller songs.
Yeah.
And even with Taylor Swift, her first couple albums were like
storyteller.
that.
A lot of her, well, not a lot, but some of her songs are that way. I mean, she started off as a country artist, so they're so I really like the storytelling, and so I listen to the mostly now. I'll listen to like Southern rock inspired Christian music or secular.
Okay. Got any examples of that?
Country. Well, I feel like Third Day was kind of a southern,
sure. Well, from Georgia,
a southern rock.
You don't get any more southern than that.
Band.
You're in the ocean if you get some more southern.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, like Leonard Skinner, or, those types of older bands, like 70s, older bands, nothing modern.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
Do they even?
Really.
Southern rock isn't even a thing, is it?
Not really.
And rock is not really a thing, is it?
It's morphed, I would say. But like even in the Christian world, there's that band. I always forget their name. I saw them playing Vinnie Robles. Need to Breathe.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of them?
No.
I bet you if you heard some songs, you go,
Probably.
I remember that one from the radio. They kind of got that sound, kind of a bluegrassy southern, not hard rock.
Yeah.
Not like a. I mean, no one's ever going to sound like Leonard Skinner. I mean, those guys were just amazing, right? I've never heard a band that even comes close to sounding that specific sound. But you can tell the bands that were influenced by bands like that, and they're still making music today.
Yeah.
And a lot of the kind of...
I mean, even like Kid Rock.
Oh, yeah.
That song.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard it.
Which one? Which song?
Oh, my gosh. It's like starts off with one of the riffs from Leonard Skinner.
Oh...
He's talking about
what song is that?
Smoking pot or something, or
I forgot what song that is.
I forget it.
But yeah, Kid Rock is another interesting one because he started off as a rapper and then kind of got into kind of heavier rock rap. Yeah. And then he started putting out, he did that song with Sheryl Crow that was real slow. Picture or whatever it's called. Yeah. It was like slow country ballad. It's like, dude, like what? Yeah. What's going on with this guy?
Yeah, and then the next thing you know, he's shooting Budweiser cans.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So I mean, he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, just I'm not really good at like I know songs like when I hear them. Yeah. But like I don't know like band. Like the band leaders' names. I don't know their guitarists. I don't know any of those people. Okay. Like I just. What's funny is I would always say, like you people get an album, and they listen to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I was really more of unfortunately, kind of like the top hits kind of guy. Like I like 2 songs on that
You're
album.
a Casey's Top 40 kind of dude.
Yeah. I was a Casey's 40. Yeah, top 40. Casey's Top 40 guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's some good stuff in there, man. Yeah. Top 40. It didn't get there on accident.
Yeah. Or just their popular songs. It doesn't have to be top 40, but just kind of like the popular songs I like. Okay. I used to kind of like classical music. Okay. But I've kind of fallen away from that a little bit.
Classical, like old, like Mozart and Beethoven and Bach. Yeah, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just like orchestra music or like,
but not big band, more like
no, like classical.
Okay, gotcha.
And but now I don't know why, but it kind of irritates me.
Oh, really?
I don't understand. It's just like I'll be driving and listening to it.
Oh, see, that's your problem.
And I'm just like,
that'll put you to sleep, dude.
It agitates me.
Really?
I don't know why.
I can't listen to it when I'm driving. I have to listen to like Metallica or something when I'm driving. It's got to be something to pump me up.
It's weird.
And I can sing along to. But I also, when I'm reading or if I'm just studying or I'm doing something, I can't listen to stuff with words when I'm trying to read anything. Because I'm reading words and I'm listening to words and it just doesn't, I either don't get one, it just messes me all up. But if I'm studying or reading and I put on like water music by Handel or something, it's awesome. I mean, I've got some of the best Bible study done during that time. And I don't know, people say that kind of music makes you smart. Mm-hmm. That's why they say you should always play classical music to the baby in the womb when he's growing and that stuff. I don't know if there's any real truth to that, but
that's why I'm so dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I tried playing like Limp Bizkit to my kids, and then that didn't turn out good. But no,
Yeah.
But I mean, we never did that. But I mean, they're saying that. I don't know if there's actual tests shown. Like, yes, here's a kid that listened to classical in the womb, and here's a kid that listened to, I don't know, whatever. AC/DC in the womb, and the kid that listened to classical is like, yes, Father, and he's like all this stuff, and then you go over to the AC/DC kid, and he's like, I don't know, no, he's like this like total thing. Like, I doubt they've actually done that. I don't know what kind of studies they're doing that would make somebody make the claim.
Yeah, it's
like the same thing with plants. Oh no, I played Mozart for this section of plants, and they grew taller, and then over here I played, AC/DC, and they're dead, like they're brown.
Is that real?
There's certain studies like that.
Yeah, I think I remember those from in the 80s when they do the backmasking things. They'd also tell you that this music's going to like kill you.
Right, exactly, because the message is in there.
Yeah.
Well, Sir Charles Manson says that's where he got his ideas, like it was Helter Skelter, right? Wasn't that the song?
Yeah.
He played backwards, supposedly, and it told him to kill people.
Oh, that must be why my parents were so against,
Could be.
We would listen to the
right.
backwards record thing.
Sure. Sure.
Because he said that.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
That was his whole claim.
Yeah.
So, which that's a fascinating story too, the whole Beatles thing. Because he was friends with, Charles Manson was friends with one of the Beach Boys.
Yes.
And he actually was a songwriter. Charles Manson was a songwriter, and he got rejected by the whole, that's why he lashed out against Hollywood. And it's actually a pretty fascinating story.
Yeah, but, that is wild.
Okay, so let's do currently, and again, it doesn't have to be like, when I say currently, I mean like right now in your life. It doesn't mean have to be something you just discovered yesterday. It could be something you listened to as a kid. But like from birth to now, as you're sitting here, could you give me like 5 favorite musical artists of all time?
God.
The ones
of
that
all time?
Yeah, that just kind of stuck with you, or like you really.
I really like, obviously Third Day. I've already mentioned that a million times.
Yeah.
Like Leonard Skinner. I really like Kenny Chesney.
Okay.
I know that probably makes you want to.
No, he's good. No, he's good. I like some of his stuff.
I just like it because it's just soothing, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. U2. I like that band.
Yep.
Man.
One more. You got to plumb the depths for this one.
I don't know. The Cure.
Ooh, good one. Okay.
All right, that's 5.
That is
I did
5.
it.
You did it, man.
Yeah.
And how about a few that you hate? Are there any bands that just drive you nuts, or musical artists you like, every time that comes on I want to kill somebody, besides classical music while you're driving? Is there anything else?
Oh, some of the I mean, I know their songs. I don't know if I could say their names. Like, who sings that? In the arms of a woman, or arms of an angel, fly away. That one, I can't stand that song.
What is that?
I don't know who it is.
Isn't that is that Sarah McLachlan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
You don't like that song?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's from that movie.
I went to a Bonnie Raitt concert recently with my wife. I learned that I'm not a big fan.
This is recently?
Yeah.
She's got to be in her 80s now, right?
Yeah, but she's okay. But I mean, I wouldn't buy her album.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I could see that. So that's funny. So I ask you to list what you really don't like, and you list somebody you've actually seen live.
Yeah. Recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Is Heather a fan though? Is she a big fan?
No.
Okay.
No, we went for a birthday party. It was her dad's birthday party.
Oh, like somebody invited you. And
yeah.
Like, okay, we'll go.
And it was up at Vino Robles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we went to that.
That's a nice venue.
It was okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. There's not a whole lot that I'm like, I can't.
What about rap? How do you feel about rap? Are you a rap fan?
Oh, yeah. I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you a name to say that the music I don't like.
Yeah.
To say I'm not into.
Is it the genre you're not into? Like,
I'm not that big into rap.
There's no rap that you do like?
Every once in a while I've heard a song and I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of catchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, a lot of my hearing rap is from me sitting in my car listening to it from somebody else's car.
Yeah. Like someone else.
I'm like, I don't like that.
Yeah. Whenever I hear that, I roll up the windows.
Yeah.
It's like, look, dude, I don't need you teaching my kids words they don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But it's funny. This is so far off subject.
Good.
But,
love it.
so when I was managing our facility here in Santa Maria, we had a deaf customer come, and we rented a unit to him, and she was just a really sweet person, and then she brought her friends. They were also deaf, and they were starting, like that community must talk, and hey, this is a good place to go.
Oh, okay.
That kind of thing.
You were friendly to the deaf community.
Yeah, they liked me.
And
Yeah, they liked us.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they just started. Their friends. We had several deaf customers, and they would come into the facility and they would play like rap music because they could hear. The car's going boom, boom.
Oh, they would feel the vibration.
Boom. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like when I'm at a concert, and if the bass amp is turned up a certain way, I can feel it in my bones.
Yes, they can
right?
feel
like
it.
It's boom, and it's like, oh my god, it's almost kind of scary sometimes. I remember one time I was at a punk show, and I don't know what was going on, but I actually felt it made me have a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because it made my heart feel funny. Because my whole body kept like rattling every time the bass was hit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But that makes sense because that's something that you can feel.
Yeah.
That doesn't go through the ears. You feel it with your body. Neat.
Isn't that wild?
So they would enjoy hip hop music with a lot of bass for that reason.
Yeah, whatever it was, there was a lot of bass, and they would pull up to the gate, and then the cars go boom, boom,
dude.
boom.
And your first thought is, why are deaf people listening to music at all? But then you realize,
I think I realized it pretty quick. Like, it's they're feeling the music. It gives a whole new meaning to feeling. It does. You know what I mean?
That's really interesting.
So
now I'm really curious to look into that, because I'm like, to what extent can you feel it? Can you actually?
Well, you felt it so much you thought you were having.
Well, I did, right? I did, but I'm wondering, like, if I was to, even for myself, if I go to a show, see, but it'd be hard to do without. I'd have to like plug my ears to the point that I couldn't hear anything at all.
Yeah.
To test this, but to see, could I, even if it was a song I already knew, could I understand, for lack of a better word, because hearing is not happening, could I understand the actual beat? Like, would it be in time, like a real beat that I would experience in my feelings of my body, as opposed to experiencing the beat through my eardrum?
I think it would have to depend on the beat.
Right.
How fast it was.
Yeah.
You'd probably want to listen to something with a faster beat.
Right.
Than something with a real slow, like boom. And then a second to boom.
Yes. Yeah. That's like, ooh, dude, that's some homework for me now.
Yeah.
I got to find a good show to do that at.
Yeah.
Just put in like 14 earplugs in each ear to make it so I completely deaf.
And see what you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
love it.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing before we take a break and then move on into politics. So you give me 5 of your favorites here, and now, could you name 2 or 3 favorite songs from each of these 5 people you've given me? Starting with Third Day.
Cry Out to Jesus.
Okay.
I like that song.
Okay.
Leonard Skinner, Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like, you're a jerk. I didn't see
most
this
people
one.
can't do this.
I didn't see this one coming.
No, most people can't do this. That's why I ask later, and they have to name later, and it'll go on your playlist.
What, Streets Have No Name?
Yeah. That's a good one.
You too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kenny Chesney. Oh my gosh, I listen to him all the time. I just don't, like I ride a street bike too,
okay.
and I ride to work, and I'll listen to him.
Like a bicycle?
No,
like a street motorcycle. Okay.
Yeah, I'll listen to him. But you're focusing on what you're doing when you're riding. That's why I like it. It's like I think of it as like it's the ultimate brainwashing.
Yeah.
Because if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, you're dead.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I leave work and I'm 100% focused on what I'm doing. And no matter what problem I have is not in my brain.
Okay.
And I like that.
So it helps you escape.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I ride home. I'm like looking at other cars. What are they doing? What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Trying to pre-plan. Is there going to be a coyote run out in front of me?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
where's the deer? Are those
Yeah.
antlers?
The way you can tell if there's a coyote going to run out from you is if you see the roadrunner first. You always know if you see the roadrunner, then you got to slow down because you know that coyote's going to be coming.
Yeah.
Right
and you know
behind
Bugs
him.
Bunny's watching too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Somewhere around there.
Yeah. I don't know if Kenny Out Last Night, is that
Okay.
is that a name of the song?
I don't know.
You know,
I'm not real familiar with his catalog,
Okay.
but some of the stuff I've heard I
All
like.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then what was the last one?
The
again?
Cure.
The Cure.
Yeah.
My gosh, I like that too, and I listen to it all the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. The Cure's another band I don't think anybody's really ever.
and I know that there's people listening. They're going to be like yelling out the name of this. And
See, I love that.
And I'm not going to remember. I'm going to remember as soon as I walk out the door.
Right.
And I'm going to feel like
you're on the spot.
I'm going to feel like such a dummy.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. That's awesome.
But that phone's sitting right there.
That's good, man. We'll get it later. Do you remember like any of the way? Well, let's take like the U2 you mentioned early on. Do you remember like what you mentioned the Joshua Tree album? Was that the first time you ever heard them, or?
Yeah, I mean, well, MTV came out.
Yes.
And I think I
Saw the video for The Streets Have No Name. Probably.
my parents were gone, and I flipped on MTV
Oof.
and saw the video.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is the best.
And back in the 80s, those videos were
Yeah.
pretty raunchy sometimes.
U2 wasn't.
Not
I
U2,
didn't-
but
yeah.
just MTV in general.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I think the first visions of women in bikinis I saw on MTV.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't watch it much, but that like I knew my parents didn't want me listening to certain music, so I would, but yeah, I remember seeing the video to that. I think the soundtrack to Rocky,
Ooh.
You
The first Rocky?
yeah,
Okay.
and I remember watching that, and then my friend going over to my friend's house. His name was Jason, and he wanted to box me.
Oh.
And you know how boys they
Yeah.
watch the shows and they're like,
They
hey, we
wanna-
can do that.
that's right,
and
man.
I remember going out there and taking a few swings
Yeah.
at him. I was bigger than him.
Okay.
And I just remember he was like, okay, we're done.
Yeah. So you got to play Apollo and he was Rocky, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was definitely Rocky.
Okay.
So we didn't get very many hits
Yeah.
in, but he had the gloves.
But you
and
put the
everything.
song on while you were doing it?
No.
Oh,
we didn't do
dude,
that, but
come on.
yeah.
You did it all wrong.
Yeah.
You got to recreate it. Man.
Right. Oh, and then I remember, Highway to the Danger Zone off of the Top
Oh,
Gun.
Top Gun, Danger Zone. Yeah,
I
by
love that.
Kenny Loggins.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was big and I loved airplanes.
Okay.
And so
that's probably your favorite movie growing up.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it still is. I mean,
Okay.
it is like you can. I know this isn't one of your topics,
Hey,
but with movies, I mean,
There's no rules, man. Just let it rip.
I feel like Top Gun is like a lesson in life.
Okay.
And it can change. Your lesson in life
Yeah.
can change by watching that movie. Like
Right.
it's so
Right.
funny.
And the lesson is always make sure that your ejector seat works properly.
The lesson is don't leave your wingman. Do not leave your wingman.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like one of the first, probably that, watching Goose die, and then right, he's the one that
Yeah.
didn't, yeah. And then Artax on Never Ending Story were two of the most traumatizing events in the young life. Do you remember Never Ending Story?
Yes.
Where he loses his horse.
Yes.
And he's trying to pull him out of the swamp, and then he sinks and dies. It's the most traumatic thing. Like, you ask any kid that grew up in the 80s that saw that movie, that movie destroyed me. That scene destroyed me.
And the goose scene.
And the goose scene, right.
To this day,
Yeah.
I tell our kids, talk to me, Goose.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yeah. It's terrible.
It's like
Terrible.
Yeah, and they had no idea what I was
Yeah.
talking about, and finally I made them watch Top Gun.
Isn't that fun to quote old movies they don't know?
Yeah.
Because I do that knowing that someday they're probably going to watch it, and maybe it's even after I'm long dead, and they're watching it and they're going, my dad used to say that all the time, Like, stay gold,
My parents
pony boy.
took me to that movie,
In
and
the theater?
they were shocked.
Oh, by
because we grew up in a very,
Happy home.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up in a home that you didn't have, we weren't kind of like what you have for your kids, like not a lot of swearing, all of that. And we went to Top Gun, and there's swearing in it, and then there's the sex scene in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, my parents were just like, oh my gosh, I think they covered my eyes.
They were like, hey, it's a plane movie. Yeah. Todd likes planes.
Yeah.
Let's take him to this
that's
one.
what they thought,
Yeah.
My dad took me to Arthur as a child, which was a vulgar.
Oh, what's that movie? Not the one with Dudley Moore.
Yeah, and he.
Okay.
Yeah, and we walked out of that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my dad thought he was doing something nice for.
Yeah.
They did not. They're not like, my mom isn't like this now, but she's gone with us actually. But we weren't like allowed to let the kids go. We weren't allowed to trick or treat. As we got old. We were at first, and then they were like, hey, this holiday really doesn't represent good.
Right.
So we don't want you trick-or-treating.
Yeah. I have a whole episode on that.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, because when we first got saved, like I said, I was 24, and our kids were really little, and we started going to a certain church in town. Well, that church was very, very anti-Halloween. If you celebrate Halloween, you are celebrating the devil, basically, right?
Yeah.
So we bought right into it. We're like, oh, crap, we don't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
So, like, for the first 5-6 years of our Christian life, our kids couldn't trick-or-treat. They couldn't do nothing Halloween. No celebration of Halloween at all, right? And then as I started to kind of reevaluate things, that read scripture, like, because I just hear the pastor say things. Here's an example. Here's what he'd say. The reason why Christians shouldn't celebrate Halloween is because the Bible says to avoid all appearances of evil. And what could be more evil than Halloween, he'd say. Mm-hmm. And I'd hear that and be like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Amen, brother. Woo, right on.
Yeah.
But then as time goes on, I'm thinking, wait a minute. Is it really evil? So I went down this whole thing where I started studying and stuff. So we kind of came to the place where, like, no, it's not evil. They're not worshiping demons. They're not, if our kids are going to seances and stuff, then yeah, okay.
Well, there's some people who are doing that.
Well, sure, right, yes. There are some actual devil worshippers that use Halloween.
Do you remember, I don't know if this, I don't think this happened on Halloween, but that girl that was up on the Napomo Mesa, sacrificed.
That was Slayer.
That was weird.
That they blamed that on the band Slayer.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they said the kids were listening to a lot of Slayer, and then that's what made them do this. But I'm like, Slayer's one of the most popular bands of all time. Do you know how many people have listened to their records over and over again?
They didn't go kill people.
Correct. It's just like when what was it? The kids that shot up the school or something, and they're saying, oh, they were big fans. They played Call of Duty. They're always playing Call of Duty. It's that video game that did it. The video game made them kill people.
I remember that.
And I'm like, it is the #1 video game in America.
Yeah.
Every kid is playing this.
We used to let our kid play it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, every kid is playing this. Not every kid is shooting people.
Yeah.
It's not the video game.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
But anyway, I had an episode with a guy who's very anti-Halloween, like thinks all it's the devil and all this. So I did a whole episode that we actually recorded on Halloween, which was interesting. It wasn't even on purpose necessarily. It just worked out that way.
Yeah.
It didn't release till like 3 or 4 weeks after Halloween, but it's a pretty interesting conversation. But
But that Arthur movie was on, I believe it was on Halloween. My dad took us instead of going trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
And then it was like the first few words out of this guy's mouth are just, he's like, we're really going home.
He's like, this is worse than Halloween.
We're
what
going
am I doing?
home, kids. Get in the car.
That's funny. I don't remember. I mean, I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid. And when I was a kid, I didn't really notice that kind of stuff because I wasn't raised in a Christian home. I didn't really, you know what I mean? Like those movies were just commonplace for me. So, but I remember loving that movie. I think Dudley Moore is one of the funniest guys ever.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah. Even to this day, I don't think I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should watch it and be like, what are my parents so worried about? You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's rated PG.
Oh, I know, but the PG movies
they were
the
different.
1980s had a lot more swearing in them.
It's like you're trying to watch like Goonies with your kids.
They didn't say the
now.
F word.
Right.
But they would, the Goonies, all those
Back to the Future, Ghostbusters.
Had a lot of, the SH word.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. And now I feel like there's some bizarre things that are considered like, I mean, have you ever watched, I don't know if you watch any shows, but it's up on the left-hand corner and it says this movie has smoking in it.
Right.
And you're like, oh my, what? Smoking? Kids?
Yeah.
Don't smoke.
Right.
You're not watching this.
Yeah.
Like, what
Who's
in
doing
the
that?
world is wrong with people?
Right. Well, and what's funny too is when you watch like reels of like whether it's like Charlie Kirk on a college campus, or even some of these like kind of roundtable discussion podcasts and stuff. There's F words all over the place. They don't mute the F words. They don't take them out, right?
Yeah.
What we would consider the worst kind of language. But they will remove words like rape and killed and murder and abuse, right? Because these are now trigger words for people that have been abused or have been raped or whatever. And they hear this word and it just freaks them out. So they will remove those words. Like, you're not allowed to say those words anymore, I guess. They'll bleep it out. But they won't bleep out the F words and the S words and all the other stuff.
You mean like Charlie Kirk will bleep those out?
No. Well, I've seen... So people will take Charlie Kirk videos and repost them.
Oh.
And no, I don't think Charlie Kirk would take it out.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But yeah, but then they would take those things out because they're trigger words, right? Trigger warning, we're going to say the word rape, you know, just so you know.
Yeah.
We're going to drop 14 F-bombs also, but that's no big deal.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know about you, but I'd rather have my kids say the word rape than the F word.
Yeah.
So it's...
Totally. I mean, my wife and I started watching Columbo.
Okay,
like
the old ones?
Yeah.
Nice.
The old episodes of Columbo. And, you know, it's like, comes up with a warning.
Yeah.
Like, there may be murder. And you're like...
It's like, really?
What?
He's a detective.
And he smokes a cigar. Smoking. Smoking's in this.
Dude, yes.
But then all the other trash that is not even not on Columbo, but on modern
other stuff,
you're just like, oh, this is all okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Showing all kinds of things that, you know.
On regular TV.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. It's weird.
All right, man.
Okay, so I cheated while you were out.
Good.
Yeah. Just like heaven.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Just like heaven.
Yeah. There's a band that covers that song. I can't remember who it is now. Yeah, that's a good song. I love The Cure. So I started listening. The first song I ever heard was on Casey's Top 40 when I was a kid. Was Friday I'm in Love.
Oh yes.
And I was like, what a cool song, right?
Yeah.
And then, but it wasn't until like now, like in the last couple years, that I've really started to get into The Cure. And I'm like, man, what a unique band, dude! Like, that guy Robert Smith's like a genius. You know, like I'm always fascinated by those kind of unique people. That
I assume that's the lead singer.
It is, yes, and primary songwriter. But the people that just they take music and they make something new out of it. And a lot of times they make something new that is not recreatable. Like there's been a lot of bands that have been influenced by The Cure and have tried in a sense to kind of do it, but you just can't recreate it. Like REM. Who can recreate the sound of REM? Nobody. Right. Nobody has ever been able to do that because they're unique and they've just done, the B-52s.
Yeah.
Like who can do it, right? Only Fred Schneider and those guys.
What's weird to me is just like, I'm not musically inclined at all. I tried to learn how to play the guitar and I couldn't move my fingers fast enough. But how music is so different, yet they're using the same instruments and it just changes everything. Right. And yet there's no, and I don't know how it works. Yeah. But to me, from a lay person, there's no song that matches the other song. Right. And yet you have millions and millions of songs out. Yeah. I mean, I know that there's lawsuits where, somebody says that they wrote Mariah Carey's song or Mariah Carey stole their song. Right. I don't know if that's true. Yeah. But it's just...
And it's almost impossible to create any kind of music that isn't influenced by what you've already heard. You know what I mean? Like I've always thought like an experiment that I would never recommend doing because I think it's cruel to the child. But if you were to raise a child from birth, teaching them how to play musical instruments, but not exposing them to any music at all from other people, and to see what kind of music they would create without anything to go off of. You know, with never having heard any song by anybody, but here's a guitar. We'll teach you how to play chords, we'll teach you how to play it, but we're not going to show you any music, and now we want you to create some music. Yeah. Like what would they create, you know?
I mean, but where, like, it's just, how did we get from big band to rock?
Right.
That's
because somebody pioneered it. Somebody picked up.
I guess they took off from big band, and they're like, I like the beat.
Sure.
I like that, but I'm going to add this guitar.
Well, that Chuck Berry is credited as inventing rock and roll.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why that whole scene in Back to the Future is so funny, because he starts rocking out, and then the one guy that's in the band, he says, I think his last name is but his last name is Barry. And he goes, I got a cousin who's a musician. He gets him on the phone. He says, man, you got to hear this. And he's talking to Chuck Berry. Right. And the idea is that Michael J. Fox showed him how to create rock music, basically.
Yeah.
But he's just playing around with this instrument and taking something that you already know, like big band or whatever, and saying, okay, how can I tweak this? Right? Or some of the early heavy metal guys like Metallica or some of those, other bands. How can we make this heavier?
Yeah.
And they start doing these, that's kind of a heavier sound on electric guitar. It's like, whoa, that's a long way from Woody Guthrie.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and then morphing from that into like those punk stuff that's just like so loud and fast and angry and just like, but what I find fascinating, I think is an evidence of God, is that there is a musical scale, right? It goes from A to G. Right? There's no H, no I, no J. It's A to G, and there's sharps and flats and all that stuff. And there's a bunch of different mixtures of those notes. And everybody that's ever created any kind of music, doesn't matter what it is, has had to create within that scale, because it's impossible to go outside the scale that's already been designed by God. You cannot do it. You can create jazz, you can create heavy metal, you can create hip hop, but you can't go outside this. So it's like God saying, here's music.
Right.
Create, have fun with it. But at the same time, it's impossible for you to go out what I've given you. So we can only create with what God's given us, right? It's like colors. Colors too. Think of a color that doesn't exist. You can't do it. Right?
Right.
God could.
Right.
God could invent 47 new colors right now.
Right.
But our brains and minds don't even know what those are because we've never seen them. All we can do is take the colors we know and mix them together. This is a forest green. Or this is a lime green, right? We have different shades and different mixtures, but we can't go outside of that.
Right.
Can't even think of it.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's amazing.
And you wonder kind of like, before the electric guitar, they just had a regular guitar.
Right.
Before the regular guitar, they had harps or whatever,
exactly.
Right? And so you wonder what, if we're still all here, if humanity is here on Earth in 200 years, what musical instruments are going to be created that play a completely different sound.
Isn't that neat to think about?
Kind of weird.
It is.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, when my great grandkids
That's a fusion guitar.
Yeah. You're right. It's true. They're already doing it. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, they're already doing things like jazz fusion, and it was acid jazz. They have all these different subgenres of the type. It's like, it's just so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I do know is that whatever music comes out pretty much from here on to now, me and you are gonna think it sucks, because that's just the way it is. We're like, no, this new music always sucks, right? For our parents, our music sucked. For their parents, their music sucked. That's just the way it is.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. For the most part.
Yeah.
Except we're extra cool.
We are.
So we
are
kind of,
awesome.
every once in a while we'll listen to a Taylor Swift.
Sure. When it's good.
Yeah.
When she comes out with something good, Do you like, what Taylor Swift songs do you like? Do you know any titles of those off the top of your head?
Not really. Okay. I just hear my kids listening to them.
Okay. Do you prefer more like the earlier country-ish kind of songwriter stuff, or like the later?
Oh, like I would never go buy a Taylor Swift album.
Okay. I would.
You would.
Day it came out.
My daughter does. She's got the records, the actual records.
Oh, like vinyl?
The LPs.
Oh, nice, dude. So she's into that?
Yeah. Yeah. She has all of her albums.
And this is the 19-year-old or the...
No, she's 15.
15-year-old.
Yeah.
So this is your younger daughter.
Yeah, the youngest daughter.
The youngest daughter. Okay.
Yeah, she's got all the albums.
You only have one boy?
Only one boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's the oldest and you have 3 daughters.
He broke us in. That's why I've talked about him more than any other. The girls are so just easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is the one that was in Girl Scouts with Addie for a while?
That would have been Mia.
Mia. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
And how old is she now?
She's 18.
Okay. So that her and Addie are close in age.
But she is like, she's a go-getter. Yeah. She's a neat kid.
Okay.
Yeah. Does real well in school.
Yeah.
Business-minded. She's making stickers and selling them online.
Nice.
I'm like, she signs up for some like an account so she could like deposit the money that people bought the stickers into her all by herself.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, what is this? Are we going to claim this on our tax return?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, and then
She's an entrepreneur, huh?
yeah, she's
That's nice.
definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then
So cool.
our daughter Gianna, she's just an amazing artist.
She's the second oldest.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's an amazing artist, and just, I mean, she can draw things that look just real. For my birthday, she drove me a painting of a 911, Porsche 911.
Oh, wow.
Because I really like those cars.
Okay.
And it's just amazing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, those are the good things, you know, wonderful things about our kids. And then, you know, we're just like any other parent raising kids, and we have, you know, have issues with them as well.
Sure.
So it's just, it's just normal.
Yeah. What do you think about the people that don't ever let that part show? And they make you think that their family's perfect. Don't you hate those people?
It does bother me because I feel like they're not being real.
Right.
You know, when you find out later that their kid just got arrested or something.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, that's funny because 5 days ago I said, hey, how's Johnny doing?
Right.
And you get, he's doing great.
Yeah.
He's going to UC blah blah blah,
right.
and just doing all this wonderful things and all this stuff, and then you find out, well, he got arrested or something happened to Johnny, and the parent, you know, knew about this thing and never. And I understand. I mean, you don't want to say too much.
Sure.
You know, you're not like,
sure.
Well, let me tell you, my kid's on drugs.
Yeah. Wear a T-shirt that says it.
My kid's on drugs, and I mean, they're not just smoking dope. I mean, they're basically on crack.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't expect that.
Yeah, those bumper stickers that say, my kid's an honor roll student, it would say, my kid's a drug addict.
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess, you know, and on some level, I mean, I didn't know what my kid was doing. So I was completely in the dark.
And that's true a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
Especially as our kids become adults, you know, they're out doing their own lives. And
I thought for sure, when I was in my early 20s, I thought for sure, I'm going to have my kids pegged. I know how to use this phone.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, they didn't have phones, but
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm on the cutting edge. Back then it was, I can feel the TV heat.
Right.
You know, know if they were watching TV while I was gone.
Right.
You know, all of that.
Right.
I'm going to get my kids. And then, you know, you brought up the, you know, like Aiden with the, you know, or no, you brought up the phone security.
Yes.
So I had that too.
Right.
But my son hacked it.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Yep.
They know a way around
They're
it.
smart.
If they really want to get around
they're
it,
smart. Yes.
they'll have a burner phone. So they'll grab a cell phone from a friend, and they will have that under the bed. So when you go in to confiscate their phone because they just lied to you or did something bad, they've got that other phone they're picking up.
Yeah.
And, you know, at one time we had our internet locked down, but then they get on the cellular network. It just is like, you know, and finally I told we don't have as many issues with our daughters like with this stuff. It's the boys that, you know, they're really pushing what they can see on this thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And finally I said, look, you're at the age where you can make a choice of what you're going to do. I can't be like hovering over you every 10 seconds.
Right.
You know, we shut down the whole internet, so it wouldn't go to any website that was bad. But there's a way around it.
Yeah.
Just like when I was a kid, there was a way around it. You just go down to the gutter and you could find some dirty magazine.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
or you had a friend who had satellite, or you had a friend who had magazines, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and at some point you have to decide for yourself. And like I said, it's been more maybe because I'm a boy. It's been more with the boys.
Sure.
You're our son.
Well, that specific issue for sure.
Yeah.
I guess the issues for girls is more self-image.
Yeah.
Right. The girls
absolutely.
that are they think, oh, she's so much prettier than me, or they post a picture of themselves on the internet or something.
I can't stand it.
No.
Like our kids are watching TikTok, and the girl's talking, and her skin is so perfect.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's so. I'm like,
filters are amazing. Aren't
I'm
they?
like, wow, this is crazy. Is she using oil of Olay?
Yeah.
She's 18 years old.
Yeah.
It just did wonders for her.
Right.
You know, my kids are like, Dad, it's got a filter on it.
Yeah.
But you know, you watch that and you think, oh, all the oh, the girls are perfect.
Yeah.
All their faces are perfect.
Perfect. But then the flip side is when they post a picture and you get 100 girls on there. Oh, you're so beautiful. You're so pretty. I wish I had your eyes. I wish this. And it's all this flattery stuff. One person says, oh, you're ugly. That destroys them. That destroys them.
Humans are like that, though,
I know.
right?
Well,
like
girls
we all
especially.
do it. We do it like if I'm
Sure.
at work and
Right.
I have somebody say something to me that is like, let's say we screwed up with something, and we have in business, and we try to make it right, but we're human,
Right.
and they say something to you, I go home and I'm like, man, am I really a loser?
And she says, no, you're the greatest thing on earth.
I have to hear it about 20 times.
Yeah, see?
Can you tell me again? Can you say it in a different way?
Yeah. Oh, man. No, that's true. We all need that reassurance. Yeah, for sure.
But our kids are watching that stuff constantly.
Yeah. I know.
So
yeah, it's crazy. So, all right, man. Politics time. How you feeling about politics? You like talking about politics?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with talking about politics.
Okay.
So I think with politics, I think politics is very funny, and not ha-ha, but like weird. So when I was in the 90s, NAFTA was this big thing, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And, all the Republicans were 100% behind, we need to get free trade, need to get this thing signed. It's going to, really spur our economy, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then now the same people are saying we need to shut down free trade. We need to have tariffs, and we need to do all these different things.
Right.
And I'm not saying which way is the right way, because I'm not 100% sure. But I just think it's funny that the political views have changed, and the part that the Republicans were thought of, well, they're not the working man's party, and I feel like now they are the working man's party.
Yeah.
And so the roles have changed.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
And then you have the Democrats, in my view, not all of them, but a significant number of them that are in power. They have these non-common sense views.
Yeah. Well, that's the key. When you said in power, that's the key. Because I think you're right. The majority of the Democrats in power are wackadoodle like that.
Yeah.
But I think the majority of Democrats in the country are not. And that's why Trump won.
Yeah.
Right? Because for the average Joe person, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're looking at what the Dems are doing, and you're like, no way.
Right.
I don't want that. I don't like Trump, they'll say, but no.
Yeah.
I don't want more of this.
Right.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
That and now they're kind of trying to scramble to come back. You know, now they're looking at 4 years from now, how are we going to get back in this game? Because we need to switch something around, because this isn't working. Yeah.
But I mean, and then we see things like back in the 90s, Bill Clinton and his relationship with Monica Lewinsky.
It never happened. He said he never had sex.
He never
with
had,
girl.
right. He didn't.
Yeah.
And then you had the conservatives that were very like, oh my gosh, he did this. You can't have a man in the White House that would do something like this.
Right.
But then Trump comes along, who's done all kinds of things that that the conservatives would have traditionally been against, and they're just 100% behind him. And it's just interesting. Like I feel like on some level, I am conservative. I just think on some level, either we're truly changing our minds, or we're being like our minds are being changed for us.
Right. Well, and the way I see it, and I think I've gathered this by talking to so many people on here that are on both sides of the aisle, is that it seems to me that the conservatives are more concerned with their day-to-day. What's my day-to-day life going to look like with so-and-so in office versus so-and-so in office? And that's the way we vote, right? People on the left think that all conservatives just love Trump and worship the ground that he walks on.
Right.
But that's just not true for the vast 95% of conservatives.
Yeah.
most of us don't really like him as a person. We're not sitting here going, what a great guy.
So
what
are
a
you saying,
guy.
from all the conversations you've had with people, are you saying that most Democrats don't think Trump's Hitler?
They don't.
Because, I mean, that's the most bizarre thing.
But they tend to vote based on personality, not on how is this going to affect my day-to-day. I can't vote for Trump. Why? Because he slept with a porn star. Okay. So as a conservative, I could say, do I agree with him sleeping with a porn star? No, I don't.
Uh-huh.
But how does him sleeping with a porn star affect my day-to-day life? Zero. It has nothing to do with that. Oh, well, he made a derogatory comment against so-and-so. Okay. I don't agree with his comment. Not going to affect my day-to-day.
Right.
You know what it is? The
Yeah.
price of gas.
Right.
The price of homes.
Yeah.
You know, the wars happening throughout the world. That's the kind of stuff that's going to affect my day-to-day.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's what I noticed that most conservatives are concerned about that, to where most of the Democrats that I talk to, they could never in a million years vote for Trump. And Trump could cure every disease on the planet. He could make the economy better than it's ever been. He could make the job market better than it's ever been. They still will never vote for him because they don't like him
Yeah.
as a person.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just that's the difference in mindset that I see. I don't hear a lot of conservatives say, I can't vote for Kamala Harris because I don't like her, because she slept with Willie Brown, or because, I mean, they'll throw that stuff out there because they're trying to slander her. But that's not why they're not voting for her. They're not voting for her because when she talks about policy, if she ever even does it, it's moronic.
Yeah.
It's buffoonish. It doesn't make any sense. She has no idea what she's talking about.
Right.
And we look at that and go, no way. We want her at the helm of the country?
Right.
Plus, we had 4 years of her as the VP.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same reason why people turned on Biden so quick. They all voted for Biden because, why? Because he wasn't Trump. That was how Biden got in there.
Yeah, I think they voted for Biden because he wasn't Trump, and there was a lot of chaos at the time. There was the rioting in the streets.
Yeah.
There was the George Floyd thing, and people looked at him and thought he looks like somebody that has his head on his shoulders, and he is an older guy, and is going to have some wisdom, and calm things down. That's what I felt like. Trump at the time was, twittering, and
he's divisive, right?
Saying things, and I think he really does enjoy that. I think he really enjoys just pissing people.
Yes, he's a troll, big time troll. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Although his second term's a little different.
It's a little better.
He seems like somebody gave him a talking to and said, "Hey, dude, calm down a little bit."
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I also think like these people that are, so in 2019, my wife and I bought a Tesla, which at the time was like, oh, conservatives don't drive Teslas.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Because Elon Musk was the devil.
Elon Musk owns it. But I truly believe that man is one of the greatest geniuses of all time.
Totally.
And anybody that says he's an idiot,
right,
I'm questioning.
That's not a good critique.
No.
Well, neither is them saying he's a Nazi.
I hear them saying that.
Yeah.
And this man is literally one of the most brilliant minds of our. I mean, you think about what he is doing and done in business. Because I'm a business guy.
Right.
It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Doing things that we never thought possible.
Right.
You think about we went from golf carts to electric vehicles that our Tesla will travel 300 miles. Or used to. They lose range. Right. But as they get older, the battery's good.
Oh, really?
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
They lose. I think we've lost 10% or something like that.
Okay.
So now we're at 270 miles or something like that. But this car that we would go from a golf cart to a car that goes 300 miles or 350 miles or whatever the new ones are going, and our car drives itself. And I don't mean drives itself like I'm sitting there and having to make inputs. It has gotten to the point where I could have said, go to your house, and it would have pulled up front from my house.
You just fall asleep, let it drive.
No, because it monitors you now. You used to have to touch the wheel while you're driving it.
Okay.
Now you can sit there with your arms folded.
Yeah.
And you're still monitoring, and it watches you. And if you look away for very long, or you close your eyes, it'll it'll shut off.
Right.
It'll come to a.
See, that's scary to me, though. I mean, like, they talk about these self-driving cars and all that, and it sounds cool in theory, but I don't know if I would ever get to a place where I would feel comfortable. Like, we could go 30 years with people driving self-driving cars, not a single fatality, not a single accident, and I still don't think I could just set it. All right, San Diego, and then go fall asleep in the back.
Oh, I would never. I don't think I could do that.
Like, even if the statistics started to show that,
Yeah.
I still think I would be able to sleep.
Yeah. I think the car could, I think it would get into some, it's not 100% perfect. I think it would get into some, especially like in Los Angeles, it'd probably get into some weird situation. But we drove from Arroyo Grande to Hollister with it on the whole time.
Like, not even touching the wheel at all?
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it knows, like, when there's a car in front to slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really advanced. And I've heard other car manufacturers have similar systems that they say are as good. I have a hard time believing that.
Okay.
That Toyota truck I drive, and my daughter's little car, they have lane assist, they call it, and it slows down and speeds up. And my son Subaru has it as well, but it's nowhere near.
Okay.
Nowhere near.
I guess it just scares me because I feel like, what if that goes haywire? Like, because at the end of the day, it is a machine. It is an electronic device.
Yeah.
And electronic devices can get buggy. They can have issues. I understand they're putting through all the tests and they're trying to work all that out. But, like, I'm driving on the freeway. Like, what if there's a malfunction and instead of slowing down when there's a car, it speeds up?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and you have no control of that because it's the car's taking over kind of thing.
And the car is so powerful. Our car does 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds.
Ooh.
So it'll,
Dang,
yeah.
dude.
So that doesn't take long. I mean, if I'm out here and I accelerate, within a few feet, I'm going a speed that can really hurt me.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when they call him an idiot, they obviously don't mean what I think they're calling him that because they don't like him.
Because he's cutting programs.
You're right. Well, it's just like it's an insult.
Yeah.
That guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
They obviously don't mean he's intellectually stupid, right? Because he's not. Like you said, he's one of the most brilliant minds that we've ever seen,
right.
But it's interesting because for a while, like I think that's kind of where you were going with it. On the left, he was their darling.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Elon Musk is the greatest thing ever.
People made fun of me for buying the Tesla.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh, geez.
You're one of those lefty loonies.
Yeah, now I'm a righty.
But then when he shows any support for Donald Trump, now all of a sudden he gets lumped into that pie
and then they try
of hatred.
Yeah, and then they try to make him, he does he's a little different, he does the thing with his arm and all that. Oh, look at there,
Nazi
he's Hitler.
Salute. That was obviously a Nazi salute.
Just silly.
Yeah.
Totally silly.
Right.
And you know what? I feel like I am not I am conservative, but at the same time, I feel like I have an open mind, and I can admit when there's silly things that the conservatives are doing, and saying, and some of the things that they've said about all the liberal leaders that are may just be poking at, trying to stir things up, and it's sad that they can't see that. They seem to all go along with this, like Hitler, Elon's going to ruin the world, all this.
Right. Well, that's why I like what Charlie Kirk always says when people try to call him Hitler, or they say that Trump is Hitler, right? They say all these things because Trump did something similar to what Hitler did, right? And Charlie Kirk asks whoever's asking that, he goes, "Do you have a dog?" And the person goes, "Yeah, I have a dog." "Did you know Hitler had a dog?" "See, you're just like Hitler. You guys both had a dog. This means you're exactly the same." It's just such stupid reasoning, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, no, like even in his first term, they're like sitting there waiting for him to do something Hitler did. Like actually start taking things over and being like, all right, this is a, what are they calling it? A dictatorship, And it's like, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So then when he didn't do that in his first term, they're like, oh no, he's just been waiting. He's been waiting for his second term, and he was so ticked off that he didn't get in there at the second election, and he lost. He claims that the election was stolen from him, but now he's back with a vengeance. And I'm like, okay, and he's been in office for what, 3 months now or something, 4 months. I don't know how long. And what's he doing? Is he doing stuff to make people mad? Yeah, because he's stepping on toes that don't want to be stepped on. Mm-hmm. But for those of us that are rational thinking people, we think, yeah, but those toes have needed to been stepped on for years.
Right.
And that's exactly what they're doing. Everybody says, oh, we need to tear down the system and start over. That's the only way we're going to fix America. Tear down the system and start over. And then that's what Trump starts to do. Right. And that's what Elon Musk starts to do with Doge. And that's what, RFK Jr. is starting to do with Big Pharma.
Yeah.
And people are crying foul.
Right.
Well, this is what you've been saying we've needed all along.
Yeah.
You just don't like it because of who's doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, RFK, it's interesting because I think he has really good points. And in fact, I started listening to him a little bit. I don't agree with his politics, like quite a bit of his politics.
Right.
But this health thing is, I think, is totally true.
Yeah.
We're killing ourselves.
Yep.
But the funny thing is what I was saying before, is Michelle Obama tried to take Coca-Cola machines out of the schools, and people got mad and said, "You're Hitler. You're trying to take."
I don't remember that story. Really?
You don't remember that?
No.
Yeah. They were. She didn't want junk food in the vending machines.
Was that when Obama was president?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and now all the conservatives are like, "Oh, we don't want vending machines in school." Do you see what I'm saying? Like it does seem.
That was my lunch every day in high school. It's a wild cherry Pepsi and a Snickers.
There are some things, but so I weighed 243 and a half pounds on December 31st of 2024.
Really?
Yes. And I was like, I kind of listened to RFK and that, was it Casey Means or whatever, and talking about the processed foods we're eating, the junk we're eating, all those things, and how these big corporations, are you can't just have one chip, and they make them so good you just want to keep eating.
Yeah, they are.
And I said to myself, you know what? I am going to stop eating that stuff.
Okay.
And I'm going to get healthy. I'm not going to go.
How much do you weigh now?
This morning I weighed 201.5 pounds.
Okay. And how tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good weight.
Yeah. I'm a good weight
somebody
now.
that height.
Yeah. Now.
So you lost like 40 some pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
you did that
since
just
January 1.
Okay.
By stop eating the processed junk that, I mean, will I have every once in a while have something? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those, you don't eat any bread at all or else.
Right.
No, I'll have a piece of pizza.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Why live if you can't eat pizza?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of my favorite foods.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, I'm gonna change my life.
Yeah.
So I ride a bike in the morning. Okay. It's an order track.
Okay. Like a stationary bike.
I know they didn't sponsor your show, but
maybe they will now.
I
hope so.
Yeah. I ride that for 30 minutes, burn 300-400 calories.
Yeah.
And then and stopped eating the junk. I went through withdrawals. It took me a couple weeks. It took me a little while for my stomach to shrink down. So when I did eat, I didn't need 8 pieces of pizza anymore. I just needed 2.
Right.
And
you never needed 8 anyway. You just wanted 8.
I just wanted 8
because it tastes so good.
Yeah.
I mean, pizza's one of those things I'll keep eating even if I'm full.
Yeah. But I think they have. She just became the not attorney general. What's
who?
Casey? Is it the it's a
the FDA?
No, the Surgeon General. Who's the Surgeon General?
Oh shoot.
She just got
yeah.
So she was real big in it. I was listening to her. And I forget her name.
I do too.
Is it her brother's name? I can't. I don't know what their names are. But I was listening to them, and changed the way I was eating, and started riding that bike. And
how long were you 240?
I kind of creeped up from 20, just a few pounds.
And you just kind of stayed there for a while.
Yeah, just kind of 1 year you weigh 225 pounds, and then you go to 230, and then but in 2015 I weighed what I weigh now. So I just slow process of going up in weight.
Well, it's a fascinating thing to me because I've gone up and down, and there's a program I do called Optavia. I don't know if you ever heard of that one. It's low calorie, but you eat every 3 hours. You only eat one meal a day. The rest of the day you're eating just bars and shakes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when I first went on it, I lost like 50 pounds in 3 months.
No way.
Yeah, you lose fast.
Wow.
You lose really fast, and it works really well. But then after that 3 months, I was like, ooh, I want some stuff, you know. So I kind of went back to, you kind of go back to eating the way you were eating, and then you put all the weight back on. And you know, that's what I find funny too about people that do any kind of diet program. They're like, that program doesn't work. I did that one, it doesn't work. I said, well, what happened? Like, I lost a whole bunch of weight. And then what?
Yeah.
And then I put it all back on. I said, well, what happened? Did you start eating the way you always ate before the diet? Well, they said, well, yeah. Well, duh.
Yeah.
You can't go back to eating the way you were eating.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting about the whole thing is, like, it seems, and I don't know any of the technical medical jargon for this, but it's something I'm looking into, is that for every person there seems to be like a threshold, right? Like for at one point in my life, it was, you know, you go back to when I was 20, that threshold was 195. Okay. And I could eat whatever I wanted.
Right.
I would never go past that 195.
Right.
I could eat less and I could get down to 170. But then if I started eating again, I would gain until I got to 195, and I would
stop.
stay there,
Yeah.
right? And then as we get older,
You eat the large pizza.
correct.
Yeah.
And then as we get older, that goalpost moves.
Yeah.
And then for a big portion of my life, it was like 220. And I just ate whatever, and I stayed at 220, right? Okay, cool. And then as I've gotten older, right now my threshold's like 250. And that's where I get to. So, and it seems like everybody's different, right? Like, I know people that are my age that eat all the time. They eat fast food every day. They eat dessert every day, and they're skinny as a rail.
Yeah.
And then I know people that try to really watch what they eat. They don't diet per se, but they're not eating as much as my skinny friend. And they're very overweight.
Yeah.
And it's got to be genetics. There's got to be part genetic,
Yeah.
right? And I wish they would find a way to unlock that. Because if they can unlock that and figure out a way to make everybody's metabolism the same, or everybody's genetics the same, which again is like playing God, I'm sure, but that would be the fix. As opposed to everybody saying, okay, well, you can eat pizza every day.
Yeah.
You can't. You got to eat rice cakes and salad because you're fat.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, well, that's not fair.
But I mean, if we look back in time, I don't think we had the obesity that we see today.
No.
And a lot of that has to do with the foods that we're eating.
Oh, 100%.
And foods that are addictive.
Right. And lack of exercise.
And lack of,
because a lot of our jobs now are sitting around.
But there was people back in the 40s sitting around.
True.
You didn't see, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't think there was the obesity that we see today.
Yeah.
And they didn't eat, they were eating like, eggs and bacon, and steaks, and
all the stuff they say is bad for you.
All those things that are
bread
and everything else that they say is so awful for you.
Yeah.
And so what I've just done is I've said to myself, they're trying. I just say this to myself. I'm not saying that they are, but they're trying to kill me. And I'm not going to sit there and eat a whole bag of Takis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing?
Those are good, though.
Like, they are good.
Yeah.
And they're tasty, and I'm not opposed to having some.
Yeah.
But you have to, like, go, hey, this is an addictive food. I think I was basically addicted to eating. It just made me feel good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, at night I come home, I'm stressed out. We got, so much going on in our lives.
Right.
And I'm just, like, sitting there watching TV or doing whatever, and I think I'm going to go grab a bowl of chips.
Yeah. I wonder how much of it is, like you're saying, the processed foods. Because people say, oh, carbs are bad, sugars are bad, right? But back in the 40s and 50s, they had that then too. They had bread. They had pasta.
I think you need carbs.
You do. Like, you do need carbs.
If you starve yourself of any one thing,
right?
your
body needs it.
Yeah.
But they'll say, but you can get carbs from broccoli, or from mushrooms, or from stuff like that, which is true. You don't have to eat bread.
How many heads of broccoli do you have to eat?
I don't know. Especially if you slather it in butter and cheese. Now you're making me hungry. But, like, I'm curious, because back then, like I said, they were eating bread, they were eating bacon, they were eating all the things that they say are bad now.
Yeah.
And the obesity wasn't at what it's at now.
Yeah.
So something must have changed. I don't think it's carbs or sugar, because again, that was in existence back then. I don't even think it's the quantity of carbs and sugar we're eating. I think there's something to the processed foods thing.
Yeah.
All this thing. Like,
that's how I think.
Somebody was telling me that there's, and I think this was on a TV program too, but like they'll show a certain product in America, same exact product, Kellogg's Fruit Loops or something, and it'll have 56 different ingredients. And you go to Europe or some other country and you get Kellogg's Fruit Loops that has like 4 ingredients.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, what? Why do we have all that in there? What is that? What is the purpose behind all those other ingredients? Yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Well, okay, yes, cheap filler. But the question is, what is the filler for? If the other country can have it with just those 4 ingredients, you think it would be more expensive to add 51 more ingredients?
This is what I think you and I should do.
Okay, let's do it.
We need to go to Europe.
Let's do it.
And we need to go on some taste tests.
I've never been, so I'd love to go.
We need to pack a bag and get Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
And Cheerios.
Yes.
And Corn Flakes.
Yeah.
And compare.
Yeah, no corn
and
flakes.
see which one's better.
Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes, okay.
Get corn flakes.
Yeah.
Those are like Wheaties. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Grape nuts.
Yeah. Oh, I love grape nuts.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah.
You are the first person I've ever met.
Oh, my gosh.
You really like grape nuts?
Oh, I love it.
How do you eat them? Just plain with milk?
Yeah.
You don't add any fruit or nothing?
Oh, you can.
Do you heat it up?
They'll spice it up. You get some banana. Throw some banana on the grape nuts.
Like little rocks, dude. It's like eating little pebbles.
I know, it's fun.
Oh.
It's like eating. I love nuts too.
I do too.
Yeah,
But
like
not
I
grape
love
nuts.
pistachios.
Yeah, I love pistachios.
Okay, so my addiction to salty, tangy food, like Doritos.
Yeah.
I started eating pistachios,
Okay.
and I'll just suck on those, and then like crack them and eat them. And so that has so at night,
You suck on them with the shell on,
Yeah.
and then you crack the shell off?
yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll just, take the shell and throw it on the floor.
Okay.
For my kids
Just
to-
like you're at Klondike?
For my kids to pick up.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. No, yeah. So I think that's really helped me, because otherwise I'd be like craving something.
Right.
Ronald Reagan used to I think I remember this correctly from the Ronald Reagan Museum.
Jelly
but
beans?
he used to like corn nuts,
Oh, really?
and they were worried that he would crack his tooth.
Oh,
or
yeah.
cause
Those are
tooth-
hard, those things.
Yeah,
Those
and
are
so
harder
he-
than grape nuts.
So he switched to jelly beans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Because those are better for your teeth, I
those
think.
are way better.
Yeah,
for your
those are
teeth.
good.
Yeah. They'll make your teeth strong.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's really fascinating. But getting back to some more political stuff. So are you a Trump supporter? And if so, do you have any critiques of him?
Yeah, I mean, I support a lot of his policies.
Okay.
For sure. I don't think we should have people who are criminals here that came over the border out of turn. I think there is a problem with. I believe there is a problem with the rules that American businesses have to follow. We have to pay employer taxes. We have to pay work comp. We have to pay a ton, follow regulations, and it's very burdensome. If you're a big corporation, and I'm not demonizing big corporations at all, even the food companies. I'm just saying, if you're a big corporation, you can afford to hire people to keep up with all the HR stuff, all the rules, all the regulations. When you're a small business owner, like I am, it becomes really burdensome, because I'm sitting there at the desk. I'm the one that's having to process that paperwork. I'm the one that has to make sure that we're following the work comp rules and guidelines. And we don't have the money to be farming that out to subcontractors to do all of those things. You have to grow to a certain size. And the way our government has set up things is it's almost impossible to get to the next step where your company's bigger and you can do that. Very few people can do it.
Right.
to where, okay, well, now we can hire an HR company. Now we can, all of those. And then when they do, sometimes big companies swallow those companies up.
Yeah.
And now,
right.
Okay, so you contrast that with China. I mean, they've got these people working in these factories for a fraction of the amount that they work. People work here, and they're not sub. I don't know what they're subject to in regulations, but it's very difficult. And so, let me give you an example. My brother-in-law's a farmer, and they produce vegetables or grow vegetables and have permanent crops like lemons and avocados. So they have a lot of trouble getting employees to harvest those crops. So we do need immigration, 100%. We need legal immigration,
right?
And we need to make it easy for immigrants to come here. Not so easy that we're getting, MS-13 gang member.
There should be a process.
There should be
but
process.
The process should be easier than it is now.
Yes, it should not be where you have to get in line for I don't know how long, 5 years, to come here. And when these people are hard workers and they want to work hard when they're here, and they want to make a better life for themselves.
Right.
But he was telling me that, like in Mexico, they are growing avocados and all the products that he farms at a fraction of the price, and they send them up here, and then they sell it at Trader Joe's for, a fraction of what it costs him to produce. Right. Even with shipping. Right. And so I can understand Trump's desire to, have tariffs. Yeah. And try to level the playing field. Mm-hmm. Do I 100% agree with everything and how he's doing everything? I'm not really qualified to determine whether it's the right way or wrong way. Right. He seems to be a successful businessman. Yeah. And may know more. Yeah. Like I'm the type of guy that goes, hey, maybe I don't know. Right. But
when it comes to tariffs, I'm with you. I didn't even know that word until about 3 months ago. I would have done it
maybe differently instead of like, okay, we're coming out with a 25% tariffs on all cars. I would have kind of
built up to it a little bit.
Yeah, I said, hey, maybe we should start with 5%. Right. And you guys want to keep tariffing us? They're tariffing us. They're putting tariffs on our products that are going over there, and say, hey, I'm gonna give you 6 months. I'm gonna give you a year, and you better drop all your tariffs, or we're gonna start tariffing you. Right. I probably wouldn't have done the across the board 25%, and then with China, like, okay, we're at 184%. Yeah. But have we seen extreme prices so far? I don't think we have quite yet, and I don't know if we're going to see that. Maybe we will.
Well, it seems like, again, so me being new to the whole tariff conversation at all, I'm not an expert in any way. I'm not even sure I completely understand it, even what it means or what's happening. But it looks like at least the intent that Trump has for the tariffs is, for most part, going his way, going the way that he's wanting it to go.
Yeah, they're making deals.
Right, which is not, the purpose is not, I want all these tariffs on the countries. The purpose is that because of those tariffs that they will, what's the word I'm looking for? They'll acquiesce, they'll surrender in a sense to what he's trying to do. And they'll come back and say, "Oh, okay," almost like a slap on the wrist, or here's a we're gonna put you in a handcuff over here. But if you just do what we want you to do, we'll take the handcuff off. Yeah. Right. And it seems like they're doing that. Yeah. So far, China did that, and some other, as far as I know, and a couple other places.
The European countries they're coming around.
Yes.
Yeah, to make a fair deal for us.
Right.
And I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if that was Biden doing that. I would have been totally with him. Yeah. Like, hey, we have to have a middle class in the United States that can live. Yeah. You can't have the ultra poor and the ultra rich. Right. Right. That doesn't work out. Right. And so I think what he's doing is the right thing with that. And I think what he's doing with the transgender in female sports in high school is something that should be done.
Right.
Like I have a daughter I have two daughters that are athletes, and I don't think it's fair for a biological male to compete with a biological female.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is to that, but all I can tell you is I just don't think it's right.
It seems like such a crazy conversation to even be having. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that there's a section of the country that's fighting for the rights of biological males to compete against biological females. I mean, because it's almost like two different discussions, right? We can get into a discussion about transgender to begin with, right? Is this a real thing? Is it not a real thing? Is this and all of that? But it's a totally different thing to say, should trans women or biological males be allowed in the same spaces and in the same competitions as biological females?
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that are very pro and allies to the trans community that are still completely against the idea of biological males
Caitlyn Jenner.
competing. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, they all hate him now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it just seemed like such a crazy conversation because it seems like 20, 30 years ago,
those same people would not would have been like, that's ridiculous.
No.
Right.
But it's the whole idea that if a biological male believes themselves to be or feels to be female, that means that they are.
Yeah. Well, I've heard numbers, 80% of people think that like we do.
Right.
I'm assuming you feel the same way I do.
Yes. Well, as a trans woman, I definitely feel that way.
So you're one of those people that is the trans and also agrees with me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I do agree with him on some of those, big issues like that.
Right.
And he's a showman, and we see that.
Yeah. Yes. And that's what rubs people the wrong way, I think. It's more of an attitude and a personality thing. Like you get back to this, the whole idea of tariffs again, where we're like, the whole premise of thinking we can even do that is because we're America, right? There's a little bit of arrogance there. There's a little bit of pride there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree. This is the greatest country in the world.
Yeah.
But there's almost like this, if we just put tariffs on everybody, they have no choice because we are the greatest. They need us, right? That if they don't have us, they're done for.
Yeah, we don't really ship a whole lot over to China.
Right.
They ship everything here.
Right.
And so tariffs are not, if you get a 25% tariff, let's say we put a 25% tariff on China.
Yeah.
They send a product. They cannot pass 100% of that tariff to you.
Right.
It won't work that way.
Yeah.
It's a percentage of it. A percentage of it, the American people are going to end up paying.
Yeah.
But they can't just be like, oh, well, we got tariffed, so now you're going to pay 25% more.
Right. Right.
They got taxed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Yeah. So I think there's a misconception that 100% of the tariff gets passed on. So, well, what do you mean my daughter's doll clothes are going to now go from $3 to $6? No, It's not going to be that. I don't know what it would be.
Right.
But I know it's not that.
Yeah, we've yet to see, and that's why I feel like the early criticisms are a little premature, right? And again, I think with Trump specifically, there's a big section of the country that's just looking for the mistake.
Yeah.
They're looking for the gotcha to say, see, I told you he was going to screw everything up.
Yeah.
Look at this guy. I mean, they've been doing it since day one.
Yeah.
Like it was like a weekend. They're like, why are the price of eggs so expensive? I thought when Trump came in office, he was going to fix the economy and it was going to be so much lower. And all you Republicans kept talking about how it was going to be lower. It's like, it's a weekend.
Yeah.
Give him some time, right? Like, dude.
And to be fair, Biden didn't cause the price of eggs to increase.
Right.
It was the bird flu and,
right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Killing all the supply and demand.
Well, but then there's the whole conspiracy theory side of that, which I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
I haven't heard that.
Well, they'll say that the bird flu is not even real.
Really?
That it's something that was created by the government so that the price of eggs would go up.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've
not heard that.
Well, it's just like those that say like COVID wasn't real.
I've heard that.
Not that it wasn't real, but that it wasn't, which obviously this is true. We know this now. It was not the threat that it was painted out to be in the beginning,
Right.
right? This whole idea of them showing us videos of thousands of bodies piled up in New York. And, if you go outside, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And everybody in fear, all this mass fear.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean COVID's not real or that people didn't die from COVID? No, of course they did. Of course it was real. But was it the huge threat that they made it out to be?
Right.
Right. And then they'll say, well, that was the whole point, was for control, and they wanted to be able to control people through that. And that's why people are saying at some point in Trump's presidency, there's going to be another super bug that's going to come out and it's going to be this big thing.
Please no.
But I think that most of America, because of the dupe that we got duped the first time around, I think we're almost like, whatever. I don't think we're going to do the same thing. I don't see the whole country locking down.
We didn't really follow along
Right.
on that whole COVID plan.
Right.
I can tell you this, that our daughter, it really affected her, depressed her.
Just that it was in the country, you mean?
No, they shut the schools down.
Correct, yes.
And just left them.
Oh, the
down.
psychological effects from the shutdowns were huge.
Yeah.
Way more damage than the virus did.
Yeah. So our 20-year-old really had, I feel like, some of the issues that she's had were definitely because she's very social.
Yeah.
And so, they shut her down. Now we let her have her friends over.
Sure.
And all that.
Sure, but you made them wear bubbles and masks
Yeah,
and stuff.
for sure. What I did was I took a bag and put it over their heads and then tied it really tight.
Nice,
on
dude.
necks.
That's smart.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, it worked. They didn't breathe after a while. It was great. There was no way they could spread COVID.
Yeah, they were totally clean.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But, I mean, you still see people wearing masks, today.
Driving by themselves in a car.
Absolutely. I saw, just about 2 years ago, I saw a lady running down the street, exercising with a mask on.
Yeah.
Unless she's doing something to make her lungs used to high altitude or something.
Right.
But I don't think so as a
Probably
medical
not.
mask.
But see, that's the whole thing. I really don't know why they're doing it. And I've threatened this. I needed to do this finally because I've been threatening this. That next time I see a guy driving his car by himself with a mask, I'm going to follow him until he stops somewhere. And then I'm going to get out and politely talk to him and ask him,
Man on the street.
Hey, dude, I have this podcast. I know you don't know me, but would you like to come on and discuss? Because I would really like to talk about COVID and masking and the whole thing.
Would you put a plexiglass
No.
thing up?
If he wanted it, you mean?
Yeah.
I would.
Okay.
If he requested that, I would,
Yeah.
We could even do it through Zoom. I'd be like, look, dude, stay at your house.
But do you
I'll stay at my
sometimes
house.
see people with a mask on and do you wonder, what do they have? Are they sick?
Right.
Because I wonder that.
I doubt it. And I say that only because
Because they wouldn't be out.
Maybe. But what I found is most of the time, and this was funny about it, not funny, haha, but most of the time when people are wearing masks is because they're trying to prevent themselves from getting sick, which is funny because even Fauci and everybody else at the head of that whole game was saying, no, masks will not prevent you from getting sick. The idea is that if you are sick, they will prevent you from spreading the sickness.
Yeah.
But most people wear them for their own protection.
Right. And
So-
and there's a caveat too. If I can see somebody that totally, they have cancer or something.
Sure.
And they're doing chemo and their body's super
their immune system is very,
susceptible to
right.
whatever.
Sure.
But not I feel like with the kids wearing them.
Yeah.
That's just, can you imagine? Okay, I had zits all over my face as a teenager.
Yeah.
I don't even think they had Accutane, and if they did,
no.
My mom was very holistic.
Yeah.
We ate health food.
Okay.
Up.
No chocolate for you. It's giving you zits.
No, carob.
Oh,
you ate
yeah.
carob
Instead of chocolate.
instead of chocolate.
Okay.
You had honey instead of sugar.
Okay.
Yeah. So she would never have allowed that. But I feel like they're wearing masks to hide their face.
Yeah.
They don't think about it. You don't have to worry about that zit that's on the side of your face.
Yeah.
Right? And you can wear the hat.
Right.
And so now your face isn't shown. All you can see is your eyes.
Yes. And there was a whole study they did with college kids, either high school kids or college kids, after the whole COVID scare was kind of over. And they were talking to these kids and asking why they still were masking. And a lot of them were very honest. And because they said, are you scared of COVID now? Do you think you're going to spread it? And they said, no, I've just gotten so used to wearing this. And it's, I forgot what some of the stuff they said was. But it had something to do with being able to see the eyes. Like some girls specifically had very pretty eyes, but maybe not a very pretty face, right?
Uh-huh.
So to them, they're like, oh, I get more attention with the mask on.
Oh my.
I have more guys coming up asking for my number because they like my eyes. And I thought to myself, okay, sure, but then they get your number, and then you go on a date. They're going to have to see your face at some point, right? Are you hoping just to reel them
They're
in?
making out with their masks on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just a little hole where the lips are, right?
I don't even think that. They can just put their faces together.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, there was that whole thing. I forgot who it was. One of the influencer people during COVID said that married couples should have sex with masks on so they don't spread COVID.
I thought I remember, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, really? Like, it's in the household. I'm sleeping in the same bed as this woman. If one of us gets COVID, guess what?
Yeah.
The other one's probably going to get it, whether we're wearing masks or not, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But,
and I feel like they really hurt our children. And then I saw firsthand, you know, from watching, not firsthand, but from watching the news and watching what was going on at these school boards and the teacher or the strikes, the teachers not wanting to go back, demanding different things. And there's a lot of. My mom was a teacher.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not bashing on teachers, but some of them were protesting, saying we're not going back to work unless we get this, and this.
And it was a whole package deal,
and it
right?
wasn't. And it had nothing to do with COVID,
right?
And I don't think that was cool.
No, that's.
And that's when I realized, you know what? There's something sinister, in my opinion, going on.
Sure.
Where they're not really worried about our kids.
Right.
They're people are after their own agenda.
Yeah. Yes.
You know.
Well, that's a good example of what I was saying about using COVID for power. Right. They're taking this thing that's real and they're saying, hey, wait a minute. We're all out of school. The kids have been doing, you know, at-home learning.
Which was junk.
And then, exactly.
I watched it.
Talk about psychological damage.
I stood there, watched their, you know, our kids, our number one, 2 of our kids were in private school. Never stopped going to school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. They were in school. But
Yeah.
that's okay for private school.
Right.
So all the elites kids, right? They get to go to school. Because do you think any of the leaders of California's kids, very many of them went to public school? Probably not.
Nope.
They're all going to private school.
Yeah, they're all
Luckily,
rich.
we're really blessed here in the Santa Maria Valley to have some good private schools that are not overpriced.
Right.
You know, I mean, they're expensive, but they're not the $20,000.
Oh, yeah. They're like college tuition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can so we sent our kids we had 2 of them in private school, and we had the other 2 in public school.
The older 2 are private and the younger 2 are public, or vice versa?
The younger 2 all of our kids went to private school all the
Okay.
way through basically junior high.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they jumped, except our son,
Okay.
he went to public school.
Okay.
And Gianna, our daughter, also went to public school in junior high.
Okay.
But the youngest 2, we had enough.
Okay.
Yeah, we had enough. We had sent him to private school, sent him to junior high, public school, and then with our youngest 2, we're like, no, we're not doing the public school thing until they're in high school.
Okay.
So then we had the other 2. One daughter went to Valley Christian here in town.
Yeah.
And then when our other daughter hit junior high, we sent her to Coastal Christian.
Oh.
In Arroyo Grande.
Okay.
Or Pismo, I guess.
Are they there now?
No, they're in at Arroyo Grande High.
Oh, okay. They're in
now.
the public now. Okay. Because I know parents that have kids in both those schools right now. So I was gonna say it'd be funny if they knew each other.
Oh yeah. Our kids might know their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were watching them online. I'd stand off to the side and could see what's going on, and it was a joke at first.
Yeah.
At first, it was a truly
disturbing.
The kids were doing all kinds of antics.
Oh yeah.
And and so we basically have an entire generation that I'm wondering if they were properly educated.
Yeah.
And then
I can help you with that. They weren't.
And so guess what's going to happen? Yeah. Guess what's going to
Wonder no more, my friend.
Guess what's going to happen with pro sports?
Oh my gosh.
They're going to get out there, and the guy's striking out every time.
Yeah.
He's striking out because he didn't play in high school.
Yeah. Right.
He was at home.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, pro ball players used to be really good at
And that's the struggle for us, because we've homeschooled all our kids, and getting them into sports has been hard, because once they can play rec when they're younger.
Yeah.
But once they get into high school,
Yeah.
You know, there's certain things like I know VCA allows
the homeschool kids.
you can play on their sports teams over there. But yeah, we've never went.
I was homeschooled. So
okay.
So that was really strange.
Especially back then.
Yeah, my mom was like,
most people weren't doing it back then.
my mom was like, okay, if anybody asks you where you go to school, tell them you go to, Happy Days Christian School.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. I forget what the name was.
Yeah.
But we were really strange.
Okay.
And then people kept coming up to me. Well, is he not being socialized? Is your kid going to end up, severely stunted? And
that was the critique for years, right? Until they started looking at statistics and realizing, no, homeschool kids are excelling in both social circles and in academics.
Yeah. So my mom, I really attribute like my success today to her because she was like didn't follow the crowd. She pulled me out of school. I went to a Christian school, was getting in fights all the time. Christian schools are not the answer to everything. And homeschooling isn't the answer to every kid. But I was having a lot of trouble, and I was hunched over and insecure and get made fun of all the time. I was bigger than these kids, so when they'd pick a fight, it was, I would win, but that wasn't the answer.
Right.
Like I would win the fight, but it didn't stop the teasing. It didn't stop anything.
Right.
For me, my mom pulled me out when I got to the 6th grade and homeschooled me, and my grades went from really bad to pretty good. I'm not super smart. Like I'm just probably, just whatever.
Average.
Yeah. And, but I feel like I have some street smarts. So I think that, and with average intelligence will get you someplace in life.
Yeah.
And, if you're even smarter, then great. You'll be a doctor, or you'll be an attorney or something. That's not me.
Yeah, but see, I think everybody's built different on purpose, right? I mean, I think the Lord designs people for certain vocations.
Yeah.
I think it's that's the way it is. Like I have a buddy who's a EMT, firefighter EMT, and he tells me stories of some of the stuff he sees and some of the things he deals with. And I think to myself, there is no amount of money anybody could ever pay me
to go
to do that
disaster.
job.
Yeah.
No, but at the same time, I sure am glad there are people that can do it.
Yeah.
Because it's needed, right? There's people that are getting hurt. There's people that are getting in car accidents and they're dying, and that they need those people to save their lives.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I'd pass out at the scene, man. I'd be worthless, you know? So
so she homeschooled me through high school, which was really unusual. And then in 12th grade, she sent me to Allen Hancock.
Okay.
And then so I went there.
Nice.
And screwed around.
Yeah.
And got a D in algebra.
There you go, back to the math again.
Yeah. And then I said to myself, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I went back and took that algebra class, and then took another one, and then took statistics and, finite math, and just kept going.
There you go.
And realized, hey, I don't want to be wasting my time.
Right.
Going to McDonald's.
Yes.
That's why I ditched school and go to McDonald's with my friend. We'd sit there and
McDonald's is not a waste of time.
It's
good
it's serious.
Quality health.
We had fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got to.
How do you get the pancakes in the morning?
Their full breakfast. They had a little breakfast platter.
Yeah. No, I'd order the pancakes. So I'm never putting the butter on there.
Just the pancakes.
Yeah, because my mom was real healthy, so that was like I was really bad to the bone.
You were living it up right there. That's hardcore.
Breaking the rules, eating that pancake.
Yeah, what a rebel.
Yeah.
I ate McDonald's pancakes when my mom told me not to.
Yeah,
my mom told me
I'm in college. I'm going to do what I want to do.
That's right. All right, man. Cool. All right, we got one section left. So we already kind of talked a little bit. Obviously, you're a Christian. You've been a Christian for as long as you can remember. I mean, you're brought up in the church.
Yeah.
So whenever I talk to somebody who was kind of like, I hate to use the word born a Christian because, but was there ever a moment in your life, young adulthood or at some point, where you kind of came to a crossroads, or where you had to kind of make the faith your own, where you kind of developed your own relationship with the Lord, as opposed to, well, it's just what my parents believe, so it's what I believe. Does my question make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
Did you have a thing like that?
I mean, when I was a kid, I was raised, obviously in a Christian home.
Yeah.
And there was never a time where it didn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Like I was like, so I'm probably really boring, because I've heard different sides, and I've discussed whether God's real and all of those things, and looked into it, but I just never really strayed that far from it. Just made sense to me my whole life.
Okay.
And so but I'd say when I was elementary school, I prayed the prayer and asked God to forgive me of my sins.
Okay.
And as I've gotten older, you really start to understand it more. Like, we're not perfect. And
Hey, speak for yourself.
There's no,
Just kidding.
I'm not perfect.
Right.
You are amazing. And that, and that we need a savior.
Yeah.
And there's no way that we were just put here by an explosion.
Yeah.
Whether I believe in creation, like God created man and woman, but I know there's some people that believe that there was a bang that happened. And if there was, God created that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Then there's a whole group that believes that God caused the Big Bang, which is kind of where I'm at, to be honest with you. That seems to be the way the universe came into existence anyway. And then you have the 6 days of creation, where he created on the earth and all that stuff. So,
So I mean, I'm a pan-outer. It all pans out, because God knows how the earth was created, and I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But I can tell you that I do not believe that there is no creator. And so when you start looking at that and go, well, if there is a creator, which all this evidence points to that, for us to be here, to be so intricate, for us to be so complex, the fact that we can talk to each other and have a conversation, then what's the next logical step? And to me, that's that there's a creator. And then you start looking into that further, and you go, well, what about the Bible? And you start reading the Bible, and you start going, wait, there's something to this. There's there's prophecies that have been fulfilled. There's things to this. And how is it that this man comes and changes the entire world, including our dating system, which they've tried to change. I don't even think they call it, BC anymore.
Dating system, you mean like Tinder and that kind of thing?
Right. Our kids called it something. I forget what it was. We grew up with, the dating system, and they call it something completely different, I think. Because they don't want to contribute it to Jesus.
Well, the other day, my 17-year-old daughter, used the term missionary dating. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, like it is a term I hadn't heard in years, but because she's talking about a girlfriend of hers has a boyfriend who's like a Mormon or something.
Okay.
And she's like, the parents are kind of struggling with it, but it's like missionary dating. I was like, what? She goes, well, like they're together, but it's like she can maybe win him over for Christ, right? It's like she can evangelize him, right? And I'm like, I'm sure that always works out really good. You know?
Was she saying it in a way like it's awesome, or was she saying it like, oh man, I hope she's careful?
I don't think it was either. I think she was just kind of stating the fact, because
her boyfriend will end up going on mission. For 2 years, and he's not allowed to talk to anybody.
When he's 18?
Yeah. So she'll lose contact with him, and
she'll meet someone else during that time.
Somebody else. So.
That's probably the hope of the kid's parents.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Probably on both sides.
Yeah.
Because the Mormon parents are probably like, our son's dating this girl who's like one of those like Protestants.
Right.
Like, what the heck is that? Like, what is this? They don't believe all the Mormon doctrine and,
Yeah.
So did you ever have any moments, or do you still, or have you ever in your whole life as a Christian had any moments of doubt, any strong questioning of your beliefs? Like, has anyone ever presented to you any other belief systems that were like, boy, that kind of makes...
sounds really good.
Yeah, or that makes more sense. Or, boy, that's... Or maybe they'll bring up a critique of Christianity to you that you don't really have an answer for. Or...
Yeah. Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I think, I've seen miracles in my life, or like I've been told of miracles that, like, when my dad was starting his business. I'm kind of one of those people that learns from others. Mm-hmm. I learn from other people's mistakes really well.
Okay.
Like, I'm really good at that.
Yeah. Right.
And then I also learn from past, and people I trust. So if my dad told me this happened, then it happened. I mean, that's,
Right.
And then I've had experiences myself. So, for example, my dad got laid off from his job. Mm-hmm. He was a commercial real estate developer. He got laid off from his job, and he said, I can build too. I can build a shopping center. I can build this thing. So he put an ad out in the paper trying to get investors. He didn't have any money. My parents put their last $5,000 down on this property. Mm-hmm. That was a lot, I guess, back then in the 70s. And so he was trying to find this investor. Well, long story short, he wants to build the building, and the soils engineer comes out. Mm-hmm. In all developments, you have to have a soils engineer, and they come out and they do soils testing to make sure that the ground isn't going to sink.
Right.
So he's out there. He had just become a Christian, and the engineer comes out and he does his first core, and he pulls it out, and it's liquid. It's liquid, which means like liquefied soil. Yeah, it's no good. You can't build on that.
Right.
So have you ever gone by a construction site and you see these huge piles of dirt sitting there, and they'll sit there for years?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're surcharging the soil. It's a inexpensive way to possibly cure this issue. It compresses the soil. Okay. So the engineer's going along, and he's doing these drillings, and he is coming up with liquefied soil. It's not buildable at all.
It's like building your house in the sand.
Basically.
Like the Bible says.
It'll sink.
Yeah.
It'll sink.
Which is what happened over here. These houses up here near Sunrise.
Oh, yeah?
Remember that?
I remember I thought that was an oil issue.
Oh, it might have been.
Yeah.
But the houses were sinking.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Because they probably built them on like the old oil pits.
Yeah.
Or something, and they were not.
Something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong on all that. So.
Yeah. We're probably wrong on everything we're saying.
Yeah, probably. But that's okay, because we sound confident.
Because we sound like
means people will believe us. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, my dad comes home, and he's like completely just, beside himself. And so he just prays and asks God, Lord, I want, you to fix that, please fix this. And my mom's praying. My mom was big into praying. And so he gets a call, and it's the general contractor wanting to take him to the racetrack, Del Mar.
Oh, nice.
You right?
Okay.
Del Mar, where the surf meets the turf.
Yeah.
And so my dad's like, man, this is the Lord coming to me, and I'm gonna gamble and have enough money to build this building on pilings.
Right.
Which they do. They put basically pilings in, and they like a pier.
Like
right?
a house on stilts.
Yes. Yeah. Except it's underground, and you don't realize it, but it holds itself up. It holds up. So my mom's like, no, we're going out there, and we're gonna pray over that land. So they go out there, and they take my brother and my sister, and they're acting up, and it wasn't like this holy prayer kind of thing that you think of, like, oh Lord, it's like chaos. And so the general contractor, I think he wanted to see again, just another test.
Yeah.
So my dad's out there with the soils engineer, and he drills down. Same old thing.
Yeah.
Pulls it up.
Yeah.
It's hard. My dad, he goes, he's like, cutting it up with his knife. He's like, I don't understand this.
This is the same spot that was soft
Same
before.
spots.
Okay.
Goes to the next one. Drills down. Pulls the core up. Looks at it. I don't understand this at all. Goes to the next one. Same thing.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't get this. And my dad's jumping up and down. It's the Lord. It's the Lord.
Wow.
It's the Lord.
That's awesome. Now, is that unheard of for
I've never heard
soil
of anything like that.
to just do that on its own?
No, I never heard anything like that. And so then after my dad died, then in 2012, so I'd been operating the storage facilities and property managing the office building. And I saw a facility I really wanted to buy. And the financing was just really favorable for us. And I knew I could turn it around. I knew it was going to be a good project. And there was a lot of hiccups with the seller, like in terms of they said that it was making so much money, and whether they knew it or not, it wasn't. And then it wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to get financing for it if it wasn't making what we thought it was going to make, and all this stuff. And I needed a price reduction and all these other things. And I thought we had put down some money on the property and everything Heather and I had, and I was just like, it wasn't working out, and I just remember laying in bed watching the ceiling fan go round and round and round. And I was like, just praying all night long, just on and off all night long. Just like, Lord, this is your project. This is your thing. If you don't want me to have this, end it now. And I woke up, kind of fell asleep a little bit and woke up. And this was back when I had a Bible app on my phone, but this was before like notifications. Right. Like this was when notifications came up. Yeah. This Bible verse came up. Okay. And it was James 5:8, and it said, "Stand firm. The coming of the Lord is near." And I know that meant the Lord's coming back.
But to you in that moment,
at that moment, I felt like that was God saying, "Stand firm. Let this project go. Let all your money go." Heather and I, it was everything. We had everything on this thing. Not only that, my mom had invested in it. And I've got siblings. Yeah. If I had lost her money, I was,
Yeah, you'd be the black sheep.
Oh, totally. Yeah, the failure. Right. And as a guy, that was real.
Hit to the pride.
And I had to let it go and go, you know what? I let this go. I'm surrendering this to God. And I remember getting on my knees and I had tears coming out of my eyes after reading that Bible verse. Yeah. And being like, God, this is yours. I surrender this 100% to you. Right. And I was like, I called him and I said, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. We're not doing this. Wow. So and this is God. This is the miracle is that I was putting in a paver patio in our backyard, and I had stopped working on it because I was working so hard on this deal. Right. And I went back there and I'm working in the backyard and I get a phone call. It's like I forget how long ago it was. After it was like 2 weeks or something. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, they want to do the deal your way, 100%. Wow. And they did. Wow. And the bank also, they said at the time it was Heritage Oaks Bank, they no longer exist. And this isn't a plug for them because they're not here, but they were like, we're going to give you, everything was working out. Like, we're going to give you most of your money back. Right. You're not going to lose everything, and so everything was like lightening up for me. And then I got that call and we closed escrow on it and turned it around. And it's a huge blessing. Yeah. It's a miracle in my life. And, I guess just watching these different things growing up and being raised in a Christian family and watching, whether God is blessing us or we're dealing with a horrible thing like death or injuries, and being able to stand and go, hey, at least I have that foundation in Christ. And, I don't have I don't have the testimony where I was a drug addict.
Right.
And, you know, I'm totally boring.
Yeah.
And our kids, they want to talk to my wife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to hear from me.
Yeah.
They're like, Dad, you know, you don't know what it's like. You don't know anything, and they're probably right.
Yeah.
I'm probably not the best person to talk to a
Right.
gang member.
Right. Right.
But maybe a gang member might listen.
Yeah.
You know, and go, maybe you have something to say. I don't know,
Sure.
but I never really bucked the system too much.
Yeah. So those things kind of like solidify the idea of God, right? Like God, something exists, like going back to kind of the intelligent design theory.
Yeah.
Right. But what makes you so sure that Jesus is the way? What makes you so sure that of all the different religious belief systems that Christianity is the true one? You know, because someone else from another faith might say, "Oh, I've seen these miracles and I've seen these things happen, and I believe that
Sure.
Hinduism is true because of
I was in
XYZ."
a trance and
whatever, right? Whatever their reasons are,
Yeah.
you know. So like, what makes you feel so strongly that Christianity is the one?
I think that the prophecies that are in the Bible,
Okay.
just Jesus coming, are pretty clear. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I think the world changing so drastically because Jesus came and died on the cross
Right.
is crazy.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody else that that it picks up off of basically Judaism, you know, and it flows because you have Islam, right? And Judaism, they're starting with Abraham,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you see the prophecies, and you can sit there and go, no, that isn't fact. But I think if you look into it and read The Case for Christ,
Right.
yeah, and you start reading the Bible, I think that it starts making sense. The other thing is that with the other religions, almost all the religions, I don't know any of them that aren't this way. It's either blackout when you die,
Right.
okay, which doesn't hurt me.
Right. Right.
You know?
just cease to exist. Yeah.
Or I'm still going to a wonderful place.
Right.
I'm still. Christianity is black and white.
Yeah.
You're going one of two places.
Right.
And so
Unless you roam the earth as a ghost.
Unless you roam the earth. Yeah. So you have the personal, personal experiences, I guess, which, like you said, I'm sure there's people in other religions that, claim that, there's some miracle that happened, or there's, they were visited by something, or, an angel of light, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But for me, that's what is the difference.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
And then just being raised in that faith, it just, I don't know, it just makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And then, like we've talked about, creation. Like that's the thing that, like, we're probably with a lot of religions, I guess, but that's the thing that if the world, quote unquote, can get you sidetracked off of a faith, it's to try to convince you that we all just exploded into creation.
Right.
Without a creator.
Right. Which that's the key, right? That's the whole point of that belief system.
Yeah.
Is the without a creator thing.
Because now we're gods.
Yes.
And now we're changing the weather.
Yeah.
And we are, who was changing the weather, when the Ice Age was going on.
Right.
And now everything's warm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it's all a bunch of bunk.
Yeah.
I mean,
are you telling me you're a climate denier?
I'm not a climate denier.
Or
I think
science denier?
I'm not that either. I think that the climate's changing all the time. I think that we may be heating and may be cooling on any particular moment in time.
Well, like the Ice Age is a perfect example of that. That's what I always bring up. I was like, how long in recorded history have we been recording temperatures on the Earth?
100 years. Yeah. 150 years.
Right. And how do we know what the ups and downs are going to be? But that's what always cracks me up about that whole thing is like they call you a science denier. So you've come up with a theory of something, in this case, global warming. And I don't agree with your theory. And that makes me a science denier. Yeah.
Well, you know what? If they were
what?
If they were really smart, they would say, link it. You know, I mean, do we want pollution in the air?
Yeah.
No. Do we want cancer that may be caused by some of the pollution we're breathing? I don't know.
Right.
You know, but to sit there and just, basically, you're a science denier.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Right.
You're a nutball. Yeah. They're not winning anybody over by doing
I know.
that.
Well, have you noticed that a lot of times in most subjects, the argument back is hardly ever like, well, here's some evidence to prove the point, or here's some evidence to debunk the other side's point, or any of that. It's none of that. It's like, it's name calling, and it's like, what is that? Or like the response back isn't even addressing the argument the other side's making. Yeah. For example, abortion. Right? Pro-life people believe that it's a life from sperm to egg conception, okay, and that life has rights, right? It has a right to life, right? That's what that a pro-life person would believe. And the pro-choice side, what's their argument? My body, my choice. You're taking away women's reproductive rights. Things like that doesn't even address the issue, right? And a woman should be able to do whatever she wants with her body. And the pro-life people are going, we don't really care what a woman does with her body. We care about the other body that's inside her body. That's the whole point we're making. They don't believe
that's a body.
They don't, but they should at least put that into their argument and say, well, no, it's not a body. It's not a real person. It's not a human, which some of them do when you press them on it. But their first go-to is always the feminist issues. It's always, no, this is my body. I can do what I want with it. Yeah. And again, the pro-life side's going, okay, great. Do whatever you want with it. Yeah. You're taking away my reproductive rights. No, reproduction is the act of having sex in order to create a child. You have all the rights there you want. Our problem is, once you do that, if you end up creating a life and then you kill it, that's our problem. So let's address our problem, not these non-existent problems. I don't care.
And the ramifications of that.
Exactly.
Of how it hurts the mother.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's true.
And the baby.
You do global warming or any of these other things. It's always like, they don't address the issue that we're bringing up. And it's like, we're never going to get anywhere if we're not even talking about what specifically. That's why on this show, anytime I've gotten in discussions with pro-choice people, sometimes I'll just cut to the chase and be like, look, the only question that matters here is, when does life begin? Because if we can agree on when life begins, then you as a pro-choice person have to admit that you believe it's okay to kill a life. And if that's your stance, okay, why is that your stance, right? But that's why they say, well, it's not a life, because that justifies it. Yeah. Well, you guys say, you pro-life people say you're killing a life, but I'm not killing a life. I'm killing a clump of cells. Yeah. You know?
I took when I was in college, took a class, and we started talking about that. Mm-hmm. And the one lady, she's a little older, she's like, well, I believe that it is a baby. Yeah. And I believe that it's not a good thing. And then there was a younger girl there that said, I don't believe it's a baby. And I think it's fine. And I think that, people should be able to have abortions if they want to. Right. And I turned to the older lady and said, I feel like your stance is basically saying that this is a child. Yeah. This is a person. Right. And you're okay offing it. Yeah. Like, this girl over here, she really believes it's not a child. At least she's duped. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there's people like that. Yeah. I've heard them in debates. I've heard them in interviews that say, it's a baby.
So what?
But it's living inside my body. Yeah. Therefore, I have every right to kill it if I want to, before it's birthed. You can't kill it after it's birthed because then it's murder.
Right.
There's something in that vaginal canal that
all of a sudden
that conveys personhood.
Like we're children, like playing peekaboo.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't exist, it exists.
Right.
It doesn't exist, it exists.
Right.
Because you can't see it, it doesn't exist.
And that's why all of the clinics that are starting to do the more of the 3D ultrasounds, something like 90% of women that are planning to abort, once they see that ultrasound, they don't.
Wow.
There's something to that.
Yeah. Well, my nephew and his wife had a baby, and they showed me the ultrasound on it, and you could see the baby's face, like crazy.
Isn't that?
And
it
it was like you could see it looked like them.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Even since our kids were little, this has been so much progression in that you can actually see the baby's face.
Yeah, all we saw was like a blob.
Yeah. It really does look like a clump of cells.
There was a little bit of 3D-ish.
Yeah, you could see, here's the face.
Not like what I saw.
There's the eye sockets. You can make out that. But now it's like, okay, he takes after your side of the family.
Yeah, you can see.
He looks like your dad.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, so let's end on this one. Just scripture, the Bible. Obviously, there's big difference of opinions on, even in Christian circles, about the Bible. Is it all the way true? Is it partly true? Can we trust all of it? Has it been changed over time? You know, some translations are right, others aren't. Mm-hmm. So kind of where do you stand with all that?
I think there's a lot to that, and but I do feel like the translations are changing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, obviously, well, not obviously, you might disagree. But I think the King James is like the most accurate. Okay. And I think like you start getting into these other versions like the NIV. I think there's, I read the NIV. I mean, I can understand it. Or the Living Translation.
My friend calls the NIV the nearly inspired version.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm really more worried about technology taking the printed version out, and then nobody knows what the printed version is.
Oh, like, yeah.
And then you go to your Bible app on your phone, because I use my Bible app.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a Bible.
Right.
But you know what I mean? And then pretty soon you're reading something that's like, oh, well, we took out all the whatever subject it is.
Yeah.
Took out
whatever you don't like.
Whatever you don't like.
Make
Whatever's
it happy.
Offending people.
Yeah, correct.
At the time.
Yeah.
So, I just think that that's the, it's funny because the school I went to when I was a kid, it was all the King James. We had to memorize Bible verses in King James. Yeah. And as a kid, I mean, I learned how to read, thou and thee and all of that, which is weird. Yeah. I don't think I'd be as good at it today. Right. But
So do you think though that there's a benefit to revamping something like the old King James to where it's more readable?
Yeah.
Like by taking out the thous and the these and the because that's an easy switch. Make the thous you.
Yeah.
Make the
Well, like the New King James.
Yeah, and it doesn't change the meaning really.
Yeah.
So.
But I think that there are people that really do benefit from like certain translations that helps them understand.
Sure.
And as long as the meaning there's nothing really substantially changed in it, I don't really have a problem with that. Yeah. For example, when I was a kid, the Bible kind of was boring to me, and maybe that's where that change was in me. Right. As I got older and I was like, wait a minute, but when you read like another version that is more appropriate for a kid that is not, I'm not like some kind of genius.
Right. Right.
Then, and it brings you closer to God. Yeah. And in your belief, I think it can be a good thing.
It can be a good thing, yeah. But how do you distinguish though? Like, what's a good translation? Like you like a few times you said, as long as it doesn't stray from the truth, or as long as it doesn't stray, like as long as it doesn't change it to where it's saying something different. But my question is like, different than what? Yeah. Like, what's the comparison?
Oh, like for an example?
Yeah. Like, what is in general? Like, what would you hold as the standard?
Jesus came and he died on a tree.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said that he came to cleanse you of your sins.
Yeah.
And it's, it may be true or not true.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
So like major doctrine changes, like Jesus saying, I'm not the only way. There's many ways to heaven, but I'm the best one. Choose me.
Yeah.
That would be an obvious, blatant, contradiction.
Yeah. But I see where you're going with this because it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, the best thing is that it stays a translation of what the literal Greek.
Yes.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
And that gives people the opportunity to have what is it? A thesaurus and a concordance.
Yep.
And look things up.
Yeah.
And see what it really says, because there's certain words. My mom is like really big into that, and so there's certain words that you're like we'll be sitting in church and the pastor will say something. She goes to church with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she meets us.
Is it AG you guys go?
Yeah,
okay.
to Harvest.
Harvest, like
Harvest Church?
Not the same Harvest. Not Greg Laurie.
No.
Okay.
He's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, she'll turn to me and go, "Oh yeah, well that word actually means this."
Oh wow.
Literal Greek.
So your mom's like a biblical scholar.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She could write a book.
Right.
But she's shy. So she's real quiet.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's the best kind of
she'll
biblical
turn to me
scholars.
and say it. And her hearing isn't so good, so she says it real loud.
Yeah.
That's not true. I'm like, Mom, be quiet.
Heresy.
Be quiet. Shush.
Yeah. But I mean that's good though that we have that like access to the original Bible basically in Greek and Hebrew depending on which part of the scripture, but only because if we ever get to a thing where we really like we're struggling with a verse or like we think maybe the translation has been changed or man's hand got involved somehow, we're going to change that around, it's good to know that we can, if we want to spend the time, go back and say, okay, what does the Greek say?
Yeah. Because you start losing the words.
Yeah.
And then the translation is, gets complete.
Sure.
And then you can decide, did the translator screw this up?
Right. Which in some cases happens.
They do.
Yes.
Absolutely. The New King James or the King James is not the final.
Right.
It's you can go back and go, wait, that word means these 5 things.
Right. Yeah.
Love means
love's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
We all know that. Every Christian knows that love means.
But the problem with something I love is that the way the world uses that word now is so nonchalant. We love everything. I love pizza. But I don't love pizza the same way that I say, well, I love my wife. Right. That's not the same kind of love, right? But just in English, it's the same word. So how do I know what we're talking about? So when we say God is love, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the way I love pizza? No. Right. But just from English, there's no distinction.
Or like, I don't know if this is what the translation is, but when you know God, it's not, it's, like, well, I know Ryan.
Right.
I know who Abraham Lincoln was.
Correct.
There's a difference between knowing somebody.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Yeah, because from my understanding, that word for know has to do with intimacy. Mm-hmm. Like when it says, like a man knows his wife, right? That's on an intimate level. That's just not like, oh, I know who my wife is. No, I've shared intimate things with my wife. We're connected. We're one flesh.
Yeah.
So when we say we know God, that's what we mean. Yeah. We don't just mean I know who he is or I know his name or I heard about some guy named Jesus one day.
Yeah. Or even like believe. Believe.
Yeah.
Believing in God. Well, according to the Bible, Satan believes in God.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So just believing in God isn't going to get you, does not earn you salvation.
No. I think it was John MacArthur, and I'm not a Calvinist, so I don't hold to everything John MacArthur believes, but I'm pretty sure it was him. Was talking about that verse, and he said the demons had it better than a lot of contemporary Christians today, because the Bible says they believed and they trembled. Right. Like they had a healthy fear of God. They had to where a lot of Christians today are not even Christians, it's people. Oh yeah, I believe in God, And it's all nonchalant. Oh yeah, I believe in God. I still live my life my
Just
own
like
way.
I believed in George Washington.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And he's like, no, at least the demons trembled.
Yeah.
Humans aren't trembling. They're
Yeah.
just living like life however they want to, and they're just doing whatever they want.
Right.
You know, and they have no fear of God. They have no fear of consequence. They have no desire to live a godly life or anything.
Yeah.
You know? So it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like, let's say all the Christians are wrong. Let's
Yeah.
say we're wrong. Doesn't society benefits from having some guardrails in life? I mean, it really does. Because when you start seeing like the evil in this world, that stuff that's going on,
Right.
the way people treat each other, the horrible things, having Christianity is, to me, is, and this isn't why I'm a Christian, but it really does benefit society,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Right.
You know?
And that's true. They've done studies.
Yeah.
That's actually true. Even if there is no God
Yeah.
and it's all fake.
Yeah.
The teachings of Scripture, if all of humanity lived by those teachings.
Telling somebody not to cheat on their wife
Right.
is not a bad thing.
Correct.
Now they both don't have STDs.
Right.
Right?
Right. And a broken marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lying and cheating.
Right.
It's, don't you like talking to somebody that's shooting straight?
Yeah.
And isn't gonna, so
Right.
so
Right.
it does have its benefits
Yeah.
to a society. And evolutionists would go, well, that's part of evolution, is to keep society straight.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, but then the atheists will make the excuse and they'll say, well, I don't need God to have morality. And I say, well,
Where do you get morality from?
correct. And I say, well, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I understand. You're saying you don't believe in God, yet you're a good person, right? In a human sense, you do good things. You're helpful. You're a good humanitarian. All that's probably true. But my question is, how do you know that's the good stuff? How do you know that it's not good to go up and punch somebody in the face just because you don't like what they look like? The only reason you think that doing that is bad is because of God's morality. Mm-hmm. So even though you don't believe in God, you're still borrowing from his morality to say, no, murder's wrong. Says who?
Yeah.
If there's no God, says who?
They'll say society.
Society, right, yeah. But then you can go back. Well, back in the World War II, society said that
Rounding up Jews.
German society said, putting them in gas chambers. That was the way to go.
Way to go.
There was a time in our country's history where slavery was a good thing to society's standards, right? They said, oh no, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Segregation, oh yeah, for sure. Racism, yep, normal.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
no, that was always morally wrong.
Always evil.
In God's eyes.
Always evil.
Correct.
Yeah.
So then they're stuck when you say something like that.
Right.
Oh, well, no, obviously that's not. Well,
Yeah.
right. That's why you can't make the claim that
They
society
would be
dictates.
great slave owners. Probably,
Yeah, right, exactly. Only if they're Democrats. So, all right, man, cool.
Yeah.
We made it. That's
Thanks
the
for
end.
having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming, dude. It's good to catch up.
All right.
Fun times.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. Please send feedback to whycan'twetalkaboutthat at proton.me. Please share this episode with everyone that you know, and let me know if you would like to be a guest. Thanks.